There are 1,000 ways to die in the void, but Captain Erasmus Jak, who'd recently begun insisting his crew call him Sparrow for reasons he never quite explained, had perfected the art of dying tomorrow instead of today. In the 41st millennium, where the average rogue trader's lifespan could be measured in profitable voyages rather than years, that made him either the luckiest bastard in the Imperium or the most damned. The jury, quite literally in some cases, was still out. If you crave more tales of scoundrels and survivors navigating the dark millennium, pledge your loyalty with a subscribe. The Emperor protects those wise enough to learn from others' mistakes. Trust me, you'll want to hear how this particular story unfolds. The curious fortune hung in the void like a drunkard at last call, listing slightly to port, venting atmosphere from 3 decks, and absolutely, definitely not where it was supposed to be. Jak stood on the bridge of his own vessel, the Black Compass, watching through the oculus as the crippled merchant ship tumbled through the debris field of what had once been the Prosperitas station. His coat, an absurdly elaborate thing of crimson leather and gold brocade that had probably cost more than most Imperial Guard regiments saw in a year, hung open despite the bridge's recycled chill. Captain, his first officer, a severe woman named Theodora, who'd been trying to keep him alive for 3 years now, gestured at the Auspex readout. That ship has maybe 20 minutes before its plasma core breaches. The distress beacon stopped transmitting 4 minutes ago. Whatever happened there is over. Ah, but you see, that's where you're gloriously, magnificently wrong, Theo. Jak swayed toward the navigation console with the peculiar gait of someone who'd spent more time in irregular gravity than standard. His fingers, adorned with rings from a dozen worlds, some imperial, some decidedly not, danced across the runic keys. That beacon didn't stop. It changed frequency. Someone over there is very specifically calling for help in a way they don't want the local authorities to notice. Theodora's jaw tightened. And that strikes you as a situation we should involve ourselves in? Does a grox shit in the agricultural decks? Jak spun, his numerous braids, each woven with small charms and what might have been finger bones, clicking together. Someone desperate enough to jury-rig a distress beacon during a catastrophic systems failure, but clever enough to hide it from official channels. That's either someone with cargo worth dying for, or someone with information worth the same. Either way, love, that's what we in the trade call opportunity knocking. The bridge crew of the Black Compass had learned long ago that their captain's definition of opportunity often differed significantly from imperial regulations, common sense, or the basic survival instinct the Emperor had presumably granted all his subjects. But they'd also learned that Jak's instincts, however unorthodox, had kept them alive and profitable in a sector where most independent traders vanished into the void with disturbing regularity. "We're moving to intercept," Jak announced, already plotting the approach vector. "Seal yourselves up nice and proper. Enviro suits, rebreathers, the full ceremonial garb, and someone wake up Brother Cantor. If there's something nasty over there, I want our resident former Astartes nearby to shoot it." "He prefers chaplain in exile, Captain," Theodora reminded him, already moving to execute the order despite her reservations. "He can prefer the company of the Emperor himself for all I care. I pay him to be large and intimidating, and right now, I need large and intimidating in an enviro suit." Jak studied the curious fortune as his ship adjusted course, matching velocity with the dying vessel. The merchant ship was older than some Imperial saints, a Tervagon-class hauler, probably pressed into service before the current millennium. Reliable, sturdy, not the kind of ship that just developed catastrophic failures in civilized space. Through the oculus, Jak could see the telltale scorch marks along the Fortune's hull. Las fire, concentrated patterns that spoke of a professional boarding action, not pirates or orcs. Someone had hit this ship hard, fast, and with purpose. They'd disabled rather than destroyed, which meant they'd been after something specific. The question was, had they found it? "Docking clamps ready," reported his helmsman, a former Navy pilot who'd deserted after asking too many questions about where his bombing runs were actually landing. "Hull breach on their port loading bay. We can force an entry there." Jak grinned, the expression making him look younger than his 43 years, though the crow's feet around his eyes told stories his mouth never would. "Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Theodora, assemble a boarding party. Usual suspects. Brother Cantor, yourself, Crix with his medical kit, and let's bring fingers. If there's anything locked over there, I want it unlocked." As his crew moved with practiced efficiency, Jak allowed himself one moment of honest reflection. The curious fortune hung before him like a mystery wrapped in a death trap, and every instinct he possessed, the ones that had kept him ahead of the Inquisition, the Navy, 3 separate chaos cults, and one extremely persistent creditor, told him that boarding this ship would change everything. He adjusted his hat, checked the plasma pistol at his hip, and smiled. "Right then," he said to no one in particular, "let's go see what treasure's worth dying for today." The curious fortune's interior smelled like every dying ship Jak had ever boarded: burnt ozone, leaking coolant, and that particular copper-sweet stench that meant someone's blood had flash-frozen in vacuum before the emergency bulkheads sealed. His mag boots clanked against the deck plating as the boarding party moved through the darkened corridors, their suit lamps cutting through the emergency lighting's red haze. "Reading residual heat signatures," Theodora reported, her Auspex unit casting green light across her faceplate. "Combat ceased approximately 40 minutes ago. We've got bodies ahead. Multiple contacts, all cooling." "Cheerful," Jak muttered, stepping over a blast door that had been peeled open like a ration tin. The metal edges still glowed faintly orange. "Brother Cantor, you recognize this handiwork?" The massive figure in gunmetal grey armor moved forward, his bulk making the corridor seem suddenly cramped. Even without his chapter colors, stripped away when he'd left the brazen minotaurs under circumstances he still refused to discuss, the former space marine radiated lethal purpose. His helmet turned slowly, analyzing the damage. Melter charges, military grade. Whoever hit this ship had Imperial equipment and knew how to use it. His Vox-altered voice carried the weight of centuries. "This wasn't pirates, Captain." "No," Jak agreed, his usual levity fading slightly. "No, it wasn't." They found the first bodies in the main cargo bay. 8 crew members, all killed by precise las fire to the head or chest. No panic fire, no missed shots. Each corpse told the story of professional soldiers doing professional work. Jak crouched beside one body, noting the cargo manifest still clutched in the dead man's hand. "Fingers," he called out. "Get me into their cargo logs. I want to know what they were carrying." The slight figure of Fingers, whose real name was something unpronounceable in Low Gothic, moved to a nearby terminal. Within seconds, his augmetic hands were dancing across the interface, bypassing security protocols that should have taken hours to crack. One of his 8 mechanical fingers detached entirely, plugging directly into the ship's machine spirit. "Captain, this doesn't make sense," Fingers said after a moment, his voice tight. "According to the manifest, they were hauling standard supplies, recaf, textiles, industrial lubricants. Nothing worth this kind of heat." "Ah, but that's the beautiful thing about manifests, mate." Jak stood, studying the cargo containers that lined the bay. Most were standard-issue Imperial containers, each stamped with the Administratum's Aquila. They only tell you what someone wanted you to know. The real question is, what aren't we seeing? Theodora was already scanning the containers. Auspex is picking up something strange from Container 7 Alpha. Heavy shielding, anti-scanning measures. Whatever's in there, someone really didn't want it detected. Jak felt that familiar tingle in his spine, the one that had saved his life more times than he could count and damned him almost as often. Right. Everyone step back. Crix, have your medical kit ready. This could be biological. The container's locking mechanism had been partially destroyed by the attackers, making Finger's job easier. With a hiss of escaping pressure, the door swung open, revealing not biological weapons or forbidden technology, but something far stranger. A simple wooden box, maybe a meter long, wrapped in what appeared to be prayer parchments covered in high Gothic script. "Well, that's unsettling," Jak observed, approaching carefully. The parchments were sealed with wax bearing the symbol of the ecclesiarchy, the twin-headed eagle clutching a skull. Someone went through a lot of trouble to bless whatever's in here. Multiple sanctifications, if I'm reading these seals right. Brother Cantor moved closer, his armor's sensors humming. "Those aren't just blessings, Captain. Those are wards, containment prayers. Whatever's in that box, someone thought it needed to be kept spiritually locked as well as physically." "And yet," Jak mused, "our mystery attackers didn't take it. They killed everyone aboard, searched the ship thoroughly enough to leave scorch marks in 3 decks, but left this here. Why?" "Maybe they didn't find it," Theodora suggested. "Or maybe they found it and decided it wasn't worth taking," Brother Cantor added grimly. "That should concern you, Captain." Jak reached for the box despite Theodora's sharp intake of breath. His fingers brushed the nearest parchment, and for just a moment he could have sworn the prayers grew warm under his touch. The box itself was lighter than it should have been. Ancient wood, dark with age, inlaid with silver wire forming patterns that hurt to look at directly. "I'm taking it," he announced. "Captain, we don't know precisely why I'm taking it." Jak lifted the box carefully, noting how the prayer parchments seemed to shift slightly, as if responding to movement. Someone sanctified this thing like it was a demon's cage, then shipped it out on a quiet merchant vessel with a false manifest. Then someone else, someone with military resources, killed everyone aboard rather than let it reach its destination. But they didn't take it, which means either they couldn't or they were interrupted. He turned to face his crew, the box cradled in his arms like something precious and dangerous in equal measure. Either way, what we have here is something someone desperately wanted to move, someone else desperately wanted to stop, and nobody wanted to actually touch. In my experience, that describes exactly 2 things: heretical artifacts or treasures beyond counting. His grin returned, sharp and reckless. "I'm betting on the latter, with a healthy appreciation for the possibility of the former." Brother Cantor's armored hand moved to his bolt pistol. "If that's a chaos artifact, then I'm sure you'll shoot me most righteously before I can do anything stupid with it," Jak finished cheerfully. "But first, let's get back to the Black Compass and see what we've actually found. Theodora, grab those cargo logs. Fingers, pull any astropathic communications from the last week. I want to know where this ship was going and who it was running from." As they made their way back toward the boarding tunnel, Jak couldn't help but notice how the box seemed to pulse with a faint warmth against his chest. Not hot enough to burn through his enviro suit, but present, alive, almost. In the void behind them, the Curious Fortune gave a final shudder as its plasma core began its terminal countdown. They had perhaps 5 minutes before the ship would become a brief, bright star in the endless dark. Jak quickened his pace, the mysterious box held tight, and wondered, not for the first time, and certainly not for the last, if his legendary luck was finally about to run out. The inquisitorial cruiser, Eternal Vigilance, appeared on their sensors exactly 4 hours after they'd left the debris field. Jak had been expecting company. You didn't leave a destroyed merchant vessel floating in Imperial space without someone eventually noticing, but he'd hoped for a few more days of head start. "Captain, we're being hailed," Theodora reported, her voice carrying that particular tone that meant their luck had officially shifted from questionable to actively terrible. It's an Inquisitor." "Of course it is." Jak set down the box which he'd been studying in his private quarters for the past 3 hours. The prayer parchments remained intact, but he'd managed to identify some of the symbols: warding marks against psychic influence, bindings against warp corruption, and what appeared to be a very specific set of coordinates written in a cipher he was still decoding. "Put them through, and somebody wake Brother Cantor. Tell him to look particularly imposing and loyally imperial." The vox crackled to life, and a woman's voice filled the bridge, cultured, cold, and carrying the absolute authority of someone who could order exterminatus on a whim and sleep soundly afterward. "Unidentified vessel. This is Inquisitor Covenant of the Ordo Hereticus aboard the Eternal Vigilance. You will cut your engines and prepare to be boarded. Any attempt to flee will be interpreted as heresy and met with immediate destruction. Compliance is not optional." Jak adjusted his coat, straightened his hat, and activated the visual feed. He'd dealt with Inquisitors before, twice in fact, and had survived both encounters through a careful combination of charm, useful information, and making himself marginally more valuable alive than dead. "Inquisitor Covenant, what a genuine pleasure to make your acquaintance," he began, his voice dripping with the kind of enthusiasm that could be either sincere or deeply mocking depending on interpretation. "I am Captain Erasmus Jak of the Black Compass, operating under Charter 774 Alpha of the Rogue Trader Compact. We were responding to a distress beacon from the merchant vessel Curious Fortune when we discovered evidence of what I believe you'll find most concerning." The screen flickered, resolving into the image of a woman who looked like someone had carved the concept of unforgiving from pale marble and given it eyes. Inquisitor Covenant wore the black and red of her order, her augmetic left eye glowing with a faint amber light as it analyzed him with disturbing precision. A power maul hung at her hip, and Jak spotted at least 3 purity seals on her armor. "Charter 774 Alpha was revoked 8 months ago for smuggling," she said flatly. "Try again, Captain Jak." "Was it? How embarrassing." Jak didn't miss a beat. Must have slipped through the administrative cracks. You know how it is with the administratum. File something in triplicate and it vanishes into the bureaucracy for decades. But that's hardly relevant to the situation at hand, which involves a massacre aboard an Imperial vessel and evidence of what appears to be a professional military operation targeting civilian shipping. Covenant's human eye narrowed. "You boarded the Curious Fortune." "Answering a distress beacon, yes. Found 8 dead crew members, all killed with military-grade lass weapons. Clean shots, professional work. The ship had been systematically searched, but curiously, nothing appeared to have been taken from the cargo holds." Jak leaned forward slightly. "Now, I'm just a simple trader trying to make an honest living in the Emperor's Imperium, but that strikes me as unusual behavior for pirates. What did you take from the ship, Captain?" "Take? I'm wounded by the implication." Jak placed a hand over his heart. "I merely secured evidence that might prove useful to Imperial authorities. Cargo manifests, astropathic logs, that sort of thing. All of which I'd be delighted to turn over to someone of your considerable authority." The Inquisitor studied him for a long moment. Behind her, Jak could see armored figures moving, her retinue, no doubt, preparing for boarding action. He had perhaps 3 minutes before this conversation turned from diplomatic to violent. "You're lying," Covenant said simply. "Your heart rate elevated when you mentioned the cargo holds. Your eyes tracked right, a tell indicating deception, and there's a faint energy signature emanating from somewhere on your vessel that matches residual warp traces we've been tracking for the past 3 weeks. Jak's smile never wavered, but internally he was recalculating rapidly. She had auspex sensitive enough to detect the box through the Black Compass's hull shielding, which meant she'd been specifically hunting for it. The prayer wards weren't just random protections, they were hiding something genuinely dangerous. "Inquisitor, I sense there's been a misunderstanding," he began. "The misunderstanding is yours if you believe you can lie to the Inquisition." Covenant leaned closer to her own screen. "I am going to board your vessel. I am going to search every compartment, every hold, every hidden smuggler's cache you think is so clever. And if I find what I suspect you've taken from that ship, you will spend whatever remains of your life wishing I had simply destroyed you in the void." "Before you commit to that particular course of action," Jak said quickly, "might I point out that I've made no hostile moves. I've been nothing but cooperative. In fact, I've arguably performed a service to the Imperium by securing whatever evidence remains on the Fortune before it drifted into less loyal hands. You want credit for not fleeing. I want credit for recognizing that fleeing would be both futile and indicative of guilt I don't possess." Jak spread his hands. "I'm a trader, Inquisitor. I traffic in goods, information, and the occasional grey market convenience. But I'm not stupid enough to knowingly possess heretical materials. If there's something aboard my ship that concerns you, then by all means, come aboard and identify it. Perhaps together we can determine why 8 loyal Imperial citizens died protecting it." It was a gamble, the kind of reckless, barely thought-through gamble that defined Jak's entire existence. But he'd learned long ago that Inquisitors respected 2 things: useful information and the appearance of cooperation. Give them one, hint at the other, and you might survive long enough to explain yourself. Covenant studied him for another eternal moment. Then, "You will maintain current position and velocity. Any deviation will be met with lance fire. My stormtroopers will board in 15 minutes. You and your crew will assemble in your main hold, unarmed, with hands visible at all times. Compliance will be noted. Resistance will be terminal." "Wouldn't dream of resisting," Jak assured her as the screen went dark. Theodora was staring at him with an expression somewhere between horror and resignation. "We're going to die, aren't we?" "Probably not," Jak said, already moving toward his quarters. "But we're definitely going to have a very interesting conversation. Brother Cantor, I need you to be the most loyally Imperial former Space Marine anyone's ever seen. Theodora, gather the crew, unarmed as the lady requested, and someone hide Finger's more questionable augmetics. Those look decidedly heretical in certain lighting." "What about the box?" Theodora called after him. Jak paused in the doorway, looking back at his first officer with a grin that was at least 30% genuine confidence and 70% desperate bravado. "The box," he said, "is about to make us either very valuable or very dead. Let's find out which." The stormtroopers came aboard like the Emperor's own wrath given form, 10 armored figures in crimson carapace plate, hell guns raised, moving with the mechanical precision of soldiers who'd executed boarding actions on 100 heretical vessels. Jak stood in the main hold with his crew, hands raised in what he hoped looked like respectful compliance rather than terrified surrender, watching as Inquisitor Covenant descended the boarding ramp like a judge arriving at an execution. "Captain Jak," she said, her voice echoing in the hold. "Where is it?" "Where is what, specifically?" Jak kept his tone light, conversational. "I'd hate to waste your valuable time searching for the wrong heretical artifact. I've got at least 3 aboard, possibly 4 if you count that Jokero digital weapon I picked up on Scintilla." One of the stormtroopers moved forward, but Covenant raised a hand, stopping him. Her augmetic eye whirred, focusing on Jak with disturbing intensity. "You think humor will save you? I think cooperation might." Jak lowered his hand slowly, noting how every hellgun tracked the movement. "The box you're looking for, wooden, covered in ecclesiarchy wards, about yay big, is in my private quarters, Seal 7, Deck 2. I haven't opened it, haven't damaged the prayer parchments, and have touched it as little as possible because I'm many things, Inquisitor, but suicidal isn't one of them." Covenant studied him for a long moment, then gestured. 2 stormtroopers peeled off, moving toward the indicated location with weapons ready. The remaining soldiers kept their hellguns trained on the crew with unwavering focus. You boarded a destroyed vessel, found an artifact protected by containment wards, and rather than leaving it or destroying it, you brought it aboard your ship. Covenant circled him slowly, like a predator assessing prey. Either you're phenomenally greedy or phenomenally stupid. Can't it be both? Jak turned slightly, tracking her movement. But in this case, I'd argue it was phenomenally curious. Someone massacred 8 people to search that ship, but they didn't take the box, which means either they didn't find it or they found it and chose not to take it. The first option suggests they were interrupted. The second suggests they were afraid of it. And you weren't. Terrified, Jak admitted cheerfully, but also fascinated. Someone went to enormous trouble to sanctify that box. Then they hid it aboard a quiet merchant vessel with a false manifest. Then someone else, someone with military resources, killed everyone rather than let it reach its destination. That's a story, Inquisitor, and I've always been a sucker for a good story. Brother Cantor, standing beside Theodora, spoke for the first time. His vox-altered voice carried the weight of authority even without his chapter colors. Inquisitor, if I may, Captain Jak's curiosity, while dangerous, has occasionally proven useful to Imperial interests. He brought the box to your attention immediately, rather than attempting to flee or hide it. Covenant's gaze shifted to the former Space Marine, and Jak saw something flicker in her expression. Recognition, perhaps, or calculation. Your brother Cantor, formerly of the Brazen Minotaur's Third Company. She tilted her head slightly. Your service record indicates you left under disputed circumstances, a disagreement with your captain about the interpretation of certain orders. The orders were to cleanse a Hab complex of heretical taint, Cantor said carefully. I disagreed with the captain's interpretation of what constituted cleansing versus genocide. 3,000 civilians died. I believe 700 could have been saved. And yet you serve aboard a smuggler's vessel now. I serve aboard a vessel whose captain, for all his flaws, has never ordered me to kill innocents. Cantor's tone remained neutral, but Jak caught the undercurrent of steel. And who, in this case, may have inadvertently intercepted something you've been hunting. Before Covenant could respond, one of the stormtroopers returned, carrying the box with evident caution. Even through their armor, Jak could sense their discomfort. The prayer parchments seemed to glow faintly in the hold's harsh lighting. Inquisitor, the stormtrooper reported, the seals are intact, no evidence of tampering. Covenant took the box, her expression unreadable. She studied the prayer parchments for a long moment, her augmetic eyes scanning them with inhuman precision. Then she looked up at Jak. Do you know what this is? Not a clue, Jak admitted, though I noticed some rather interesting coordinates hidden in the cipher on the third seal from the left. Looked like they might point to somewhere in the Gothic sector, but I haven't had time to decode them fully. Covenant's expression shifted, just slightly, but enough for Jak to know he'd said something significant. The Inquisitor set the box down on a nearby cargo container, then turned to face him fully. The reliquary of St. Celestine's Doubt, she said quietly, supposedly destroyed during the Macarian heresy, contains a fragment of parchment bearing words the saint spoke in a moment of weakness, a single question that, if read by the faithful, could undermine the foundations of belief across entire systems. Bloody hell, Jak breathed. Someone actually kept it? The ecclesiarchy couldn't bring themselves to destroy words spoken by a living saint, even words of doubt. So they sanctified it, sealed it, and have been quietly moving it between secure locations for 3,000 years. Covenant's voice carried an edge of cold fury. Someone learned its current location and attempted to intercept it. They killed the courier crew, but my agents arrived before they could secure the prize. And in the confusion, it got left behind, Jak finished. Question is, Who was trying to steal a saint's doubt? Chaos cultists? We don't know. Covenant's admission seemed to physically pain her. The attackers left no identification, no bodies, nothing but professional execution and military equipment. Someone within the Imperium itself may be orchestrating this. The hold fell silent. Even the stormtroopers seemed to register the gravity of that statement. Internal corruption at a level that could threaten Imperial dogma. Jak saw his opportunity and, against every survival instinct he possessed, took it. "Then it seems you have a problem, Inquisitor," he said carefully. "You're hunting an enemy who knows Imperial protocols, has access to military resources, and is specifically targeting religious artifacts. They've proven willing to kill loyal servants of the Emperor and skilled enough to nearly succeed." He paused. "You need information, intelligence, someone who moves in circles that official inquisitorial agents can't easily penetrate." Covenant's human eye narrowed dangerously. "You're suggesting I recruit you? I'm suggesting that I'm already involved. I've proven I can be trusted not to flee with heretical artifacts, and I have certain connections throughout the sector that might prove useful." Jak gestured to his crew. "Plus, I've got a former space marine, a void-capable ship that doesn't scream Inquisition at every port, and a burning desire not to be executed for crimes I didn't actually commit. You're a smuggler and a liar. Best kind of operative for infiltrating criminal networks, wouldn't you say?" Jak's grin was sharp. "Look, you could execute me and my crew right now, take your box, and continue hunting shadows. Or you could let me help you find whoever's collecting saints' doubts and asking extremely dangerous questions. I promise I'm much more useful alive than dead." Covenant studied him for what felt like an eternity. Behind her, the stormtroopers remained statue still, awaiting orders. The crew of the Black Compass barely dared breathe. Finally, the Inquisitor spoke. "You will operate under my direct authority. Any deviation from my orders will result in immediate execution. You will report your findings through encrypted astropathic channels using codes I will provide. And if I discover you've lied about anything at all, I will personally ensure your death takes longer than you can imagine." "Crystal clear," Jak said, trying not to show his relief. "Where do we start?" Covenant picked up the box again, cradling it almost reverently. "The coordinates you noticed. They lead to a shrine world called Benediction. According to our intelligence, another artifact is being moved there. The Chalice of Confession, used by Saint Thor himself during the Age of Apostasy." Her gaze hardened. "If our enemies strike again, you're going to be there to stop them." The warp journey to Benediction took 3 weeks, and Jak spent most of it trying not to think about the fact that he'd somehow talked his way into working for the Inquisition. The Black Compass traveled in convoy with the Eternal Vigilance, close enough that Covenant's lance batteries could reduce them to atoms at the first sign of treachery, but far enough that Jak could maintain the illusion of independence. "This is insane," Theodora said for perhaps the 100th time, reviewing the encrypted data slate Covenant had provided. "We're hunting potential traitors within the Imperium itself. If we fail, we die. If we succeed, we know too much and probably die anyway. Why did you volunteer us for this?" "Because the alternative was definitely dying," Jak reminded her, studying the shrine world growing larger in the oculus. Benediction was a pearl of a planet. White temples visible even from orbit, massive cathedrals that housed relics from a dozen crusades, and orbital defense platforms that could slag a small fleet. Besides, think of it as an opportunity. How many rogue traders can claim they've worked directly with the Ordo Hereticus? The ones who survive to tell the tale? None, Captain. That's rather the point. Benediction's approach protocols were more complex than most naval installations. 3 different checkpoints, biometric scans, purity seals verified by servo skulls, and a cogitator array that analyzed everything from their ship's machine spirit to the crew's devotional histories. By the time they received clearance to dock at the Pilgrim's orbital station, Jak had been interrogated by 2 priests, one tech priest and what appeared to be a militant nun with anger management issues. "Welcome to benediction," the station master intoned through the vox, his voice heavy with practiced piety. "May the Emperor's light guide your steps and his mercy cleanse your souls. Docking fee is 200 thrones, payable in advance." "Even the holy demand their due," Jak muttered, transferring the credits. "Right, landing party, same as before. Brother Cantor, Theodora, Fingers and Cricks. Everyone else stays aboard and tries to look like legitimate pilgrims instead of smugglers." The shrine world's surface was overwhelming in its devotion. Every building bore the Aquila, every street corner had a shrine, and the air itself seemed thick with incense and prayer. Pilgrims from across the sector crowded the processional ways, many having saved for decades to make this journey. Some crawled on their knees, others flagellated themselves, and more than a few looked half-starved from their devotional fasting. "Target is the Cathedral of Confessions," Theodora reported quietly, consulting her data slate. 3 kilometers from our landing site. The chalice is being held in the reliquary vault beneath the main altar, under guard by the Adepta Sororitas. "Battle sisters guarding it," Jak mused, weaving through the crowds with the practiced ease of someone who'd visited 100 worlds. "That's either very good security or a very good target, depending on your perspective. Covenant's intelligence says the transfer happens at nightfall. When the evening devotionals conclude, the chalice will be moved to a secure transport for relocation to the Shrine of St. Thor in the Northern Hemisphere." Theodora paused. "Captain, if someone hits this convoy, it won't be subtle. The sisters don't surrender, and Shrine World security will lock down the entire planet, which means our mystery enemies are either very confident or very desperate." Jak stopped at a recaf vendor, purchasing cups for the group. The stimulant was weak and tasted like it had been blessed more than brewed, but it was hot. "Brother Cantor, what would you do if you were planning to steal a holy relic from under the sisters' noses?" The former Space Marine considered the question with the seriousness it deserved. "I wouldn't. The sisters are fanatics. They'll die before allowing the chalice to be taken. Any direct assault would be suicide." "Unless," Fingers interjected quietly, his augmetic fingers twitching in a way that meant he was processing multiple scenarios, "you weren't planning to steal it during the transfer. What if the theft already happened?" Jak stopped mid-sip. "Explain." The reliquary of St. Celestine's doubt was being moved between secure locations. Someone knew the route, the timing, the protocols. That suggests inside information. Fingers' eyes unfocused slightly, his cogitator implants working overtime. What if the chalice was replaced with a forgery days or weeks ago? The transfer is just theater, moving a fake while the real artifact is already gone. "Throne," Theodora breathed. "If they've already compromised the vault, then we're not stopping a heist," Jak finished. "We're catching thieves who've already won, and if Fingers is right, that means someone inside the cathedral's hierarchy is working with them. Still with us in the darkness? Hit that like button if this conspiracy chills your soul. The Emperor protects, but he also appreciates support." The Cathedral of Confessions loomed before them, its spires reaching toward the sky like accusing fingers. Jak studied the building with new eyes, looking for weaknesses, watching the guards' patrol patterns, noting the servo skulls that drifted through the air like mechanical cherubs. "We need to verify the chalice is genuine before the transfer," he said quietly, "which means getting into that vault without alerting anyone that we're suspicious. Brother Cantor, think your former credentials would get you a private moment of devotion in the reliquary?" "Possibly. Shrine worlds often grant Space Marines special dispensation for worship." Cantor's armored form drew respectful stares from passing pilgrims. "But I'd be under observation. Servo skulls, hidden auspex, probably psychers monitoring for corruption. Then we need a distraction. Jak's mind raced, calculating angles and opportunities. Theodora, what's the biggest draw for pilgrims during evening devotionals? The Miracle of the Weeping Icon, a painting of St. Catherine that supposedly sheds tears during certain prayers. She checked her slate. Happens in the Eastern Chapel at sunset. Draws thousands. Perfect. Crix, think you could engineer a medical emergency during the miracle? Nothing fatal, just dramatic enough to pull security away from the reliquary. The medic grinned, patting his kit. I've got stimulants that'll make someone's heart race like they're having a divine vision or a stroke. Hard to tell the difference without proper scanning. Wonderfully ambiguous. Jak turned to fingers. You're going to splice into the servo skull network. I need you to create a 3-minute blind spot in the vault's monitoring systems. Make it look like technical failure, not sabotage. During evening devotionals, when the machine spirits are most active, fingers, multiple mechanical digits flexed nervously. That's actually brilliant. They'll attribute any glitches to spiritual activity. And I, Jak said, adjusting his coat, will be making a very generous donation to the cathedral while asking pointed questions about their security arrangements. Rich pilgrims who throw money around tend to get honest answers from junior clergy who've never learned to hide their tells. Theodora grabbed his arm. This is insane. If we're caught investigating a holy site, then we tell the truth. We're working for an inquisitor who suspects corruption within the shrine. Jak's expression turned serious. But if we don't investigate and the chalice is fake, Covenant will assume we were complicit. Either way, we're gambling with our lives. Might as well bet on the option where we actually learn something useful. As the sun began its descent toward the horizon, painting the cathedral's white stone in shades of gold and blood red, Jak felt that familiar tingle of anticipation mixed with terror. Somewhere in this holy place, traitors walked disguised as faithful servants. Somewhere in these hallowed halls, sacred relics were being systematically stolen, and somehow, impossibly, he and his crew of miscreants and exiles had to stop them without getting executed for heresy in the process. Right then, he said softly, watching the evening crowds begin their pilgrimage toward the cathedral. Let's go rob a church. For the Emperor, naturally. Brother Cantor's armored hand came down on his shoulder, not threatening, but warning. Captain, if this goes wrong, it won't. Jak interrupted with a confidence he absolutely didn't feel. After all, I've got the Emperor's own luck. The Emperor protects the faithful, Captain, not the foolhardy. Good thing I've always been a bit of both. The evening devotionals began with hymns that could shatter glass and faith that could move mountains, or at least move several thousand pilgrims into a cathedral already packed to capacity. Jak slipped through the crowd like water through fingers, his generous donation of 500 thrones having purchased him access to the upper galleries where wealthier pilgrims observed the ceremonies in relative comfort. From his vantage point, he could see the entire operation unfolding. Brother Cantor stood in the warrior's alcove, surrounded by other Space Marines and high-ranking Imperial Guard officers who'd come to pay their respects. Theodora had positioned herself near the Eastern Chapel, waiting for Crix to trigger their distraction, and somewhere in the cathedral's warren of passages, Fingers was worming his way into the servo skull control sanctum with forged credentials and enough blessed oil to make his intrusion look like routine maintenance. Quite the spectacle, isn't it? Jak turned to find a priest beside him, elderly, with augmetic eyes that glowed softly in the candlelight. His robes bore the crimson trim of the ecclesiarchy's inner circle, and his servo skull hovered nearby, recording everything. Magnificent, Jak agreed, not having to feign his awe entirely. The cathedral truly was impressive, millennia of devotion carved into stone and stained glass. I've visited 17 shrine worlds, Father, and benediction remains the most dedicated. Dedicated! The priest smiled slightly. An interesting choice of words. Most pilgrims say holy or blessed. I find dedication more impressive than blessings. The Emperor grants blessings freely. Dedication must be earned. Jak gestured at the crowds below. These people saved for years to make this pilgrimage. They endure hardship, danger, and deprivation to stand in his presence. That's dedication. The priest studied him with those augmetic eyes, and Jak had the distinct impression he was being evaluated for something. You're the rogue trader who made the generous donation. Erasmus Jak, if I recall correctly. Guilty as charged. Jak offered a slight bow. Though I prefer independent merchant to rogue trader. The latter has such criminal connotations. And are you criminal, Captain Jak? Only in jurisdictions with extremely specific interpretations of trade law. Jak's smile was disarming. I'm here seeking the Emperor's blessing for a new venture, perhaps his guidance on which routes might prove most spiritually enriching. The priest's gaze drifted to where Brother Cantor stood. You travel with a former space marine, unusual company for a merchant. Brother Cantor provides security and spiritual counsel. There's much darkness between the stars, Father. Having someone who's faced that darkness and survived proves invaluable. Below, the miracle of the weeping icon was beginning. The Eastern Chapel's congregation pressed forward, thousands of eyes fixed on the ancient painting. Jak watched as the first tear appeared on St. Catherine's painted cheek, likely condensation from the humidity of packed bodies, but faith saw it as divine blessing. That's when Crix struck. A woman in the front row suddenly gasped, clutching her chest. Her eyes rolled back, and she collapsed with theatrical precision. The crowd's hymns faltered as more people began shouting for help. Within seconds, the Eastern Chapel was in controlled chaos. Concerned pilgrims, rushing medici servitors, and security forces converging on the scene. How unfortunate, the priest murmured, though Jak caught something in his tone. Curiosity, suspicion. Medical emergency during a miracle, Jak observed. Some might call that blasphemous. Others might see it as a test of faith. And what do you see, Captain? I see an opportunity for the cathedral's medical staff to demonstrate the Emperor's mercy through their healing arts. Jak kept his expression neutral, even as he tracked the security forces abandoning their posts throughout the building. Tell me, Father, with your position in the inner circle, do you ever worry about security? A place this holy must be a target for heretics. The priest's augmetic eyes whirred, focusing on Jak with renewed intensity. Security is quite thorough. The Adepta Sororitas guard our most precious relics, and we have measures that would surprise even the most determined thieves. I'm sure you do. Jak's tone remained casual, but he was watching the priest's tells now. The slight tension in his shoulders, the way his servo skull had adjusted position to better record their conversation. Still, I've heard stories. Relics going missing from even the most secure locations. Makes one wonder if faith alone is sufficient protection. What exactly have you heard, Captain Jak? Before Jak could respond, his vox bead crackled with Brother Cantor's voice. Captain, I'm at the reliquary entrance. The distraction worked. Minimal security presence, but something's wrong. Jak touched his ear, activating the response channel while maintaining his conversation with the priest. Define wrong. The vault door shows signs of recent maintenance. Fresh blessed oils, new prayer seals, but the work is shoddy. Incorrect verses, seals placed in non-standard configurations. Someone wanted to make it look like official maintenance, but whoever did it wasn't actually trained by the Mechanicus. The priest was still watching Jak, his expression unreadable. Below, Crix's victim was being carried out by medici staff, still performing her dramatic symptoms with admirable commitment. Father, Jak said carefully, I think we need to have a more private conversation. One that doesn't involve servo skulls or recording devices. I have no idea what you... Your servo skull has been recording our conversation with particular focus on my reactions to questions about security and missing relics. That suggests either you suspect me of criminal intent, or you're searching for someone who might help with a problem you can't officially acknowledge. Jak met the priest's augmetic gaze directly. Given that I've made no hostile moves and have been nothing but generous, I'm betting on the latter. The priest was silent for a long moment. Then, with a subtle gesture, his servo skull deactivated its recording equipment. "What do you know about the reliquary of St. Celestine's Doubt?" he asked quietly. "That it was supposed to arrive here 3 weeks ago for temporary storage before being moved to the Shrine of Eternal Devotion on Ophelia 7th. Jak kept his voice low. "That the courier vessel was attacked and 8 people died, and that an inquisitor of the Ordo Hereticus is very interested in who's been stealing saints' relics." The priest's face went pale. "The Inquisition knows about the theft?" "Yes. About potential corruption within Shrine World hierarchies. They're investigating." Jak leaned closer. "But here's the interesting part, Father. Someone with intimate knowledge of cathedral protocols, security schedules, and relic transfers is providing information to these thieves. Someone who's been watching for outside investigators. Someone like me," the priest finished, his voice hollow. "Or someone who's using you to identify potential threats." Jak's eyes narrowed. "When did they approach you? What did they offer?" Before the priest could answer, Fingers's panicked voice crackled through the vox. "Captain, abort. I'm reading multiple unauthorized signals in the servo skull network. Someone else is already spliced in. They're watching us watch them." And then, with a sound like reality tearing, the cathedral's lights went out. Not gradually, not even suddenly. They simply ceased to exist, as if the concept of illumination had been removed from the universe. In the darkness, Jak heard screaming. Thousands of pilgrims plunged into absolute blackness in the middle of their devotions. But worse than the screaming was the laughter. It echoed from everywhere and nowhere, a sound that made Jak's teeth ache and his skull throb. It was wrong in ways he couldn't articulate. Too many voices speaking in perfect unison, forming harmonies that shouldn't exist in real space. "Emperor, preserve us," the priest whispered. "They're here." Jak grabbed the man's robes. "Who's here? What's happening?" "The collectors," the priest gasped. "They're not stealing relics, Captain. They're using them, using the faith imprinted in holy objects to..." The priest's words cut off as his augmetic eyes exploded in showers of sparks. He screamed, clawing at his face, and Jak stumbled backward in horror. Around the cathedral, other augmetics were failing. Servo skulls dropping from the air, bionic limbs seizing, vox units shrieking feedback. Through the chaos and darkness, Brother Cantor's voice came across the vox, distorted but audible. "Captain, the vault is open, the chalice is gone, and there's something else here, something that definitely shouldn't be possible." "What?" Jak was already moving, using the gallery's railing to orient himself in the absolute darkness. "What is it?" "A compass, Captain, sitting on the altar where the chalice should be, and it's pointing directly at you." Emergency lumens flickered to life throughout the cathedral, casting everything in sickly red light that made the marble look like dried blood. Jak fought his way through the panicked crowds, heading toward the reliquary vault while Brother Cantor's words echoed in his mind. "A compass, pointing directly at you." The implications were disturbing on multiple levels, not least because Jak had never mentioned his ship's name to anyone on benediction, and yet somehow these collectors knew enough about him to leave a compass as a calling card. "Theodora, status!" he barked into the vox. "Eastern Chapel is complete chaos. 3 dead in the stampede, dozens injured. Crix is trying to provide aid, but security is starting to organize. We've got maybe 5 minutes before they lock down the entire cathedral." Her breathing was labored from running. Captain, what in the Emperor's name just happened? I'm still figuring that out. Get to the vault, main reliquary, beneath the altar, and bring your weapon. Whatever just hit us wasn't natural. Jak reached the vault entrance to find Brother Cantor standing like a granite statue, bolt pistol drawn, staring at something inside the sanctum. The massive door, 3 meters of blessed adamantium, hung open, its locking mechanism slagged from the inside as if something impossibly hot had burned through them. "Tell me what I'm looking at," Jak said, stepping beside the former Space Marine. The vault was a chamber of profound holiness, its walls lined with reliquaries containing the preserved remains of saints, martyrs, and heroes. Each one bore prayer seals and purity wards. Each one should have been inviolate. But in the center of the room, where the chalice of confession had rested on its altar of white marble, sat a simple brass compass. And it was glowing, not with reflected light, but with its own internal radiance, a sickly, greenish luminescence that pulsed like a heartbeat. The needle spun lazily, and whenever it passed north, it pointed directly at Jak's chest. "Don't touch it," Brother Cantor warned unnecessarily. "My armor's sensors are detecting warp contamination. Whatever that is, it's been blessed by powers we don't speak of." Jak crouched, studying the compass without getting closer. Around it, burned into the marble, was a message in High Gothic. "The lost need guidance. Follow the compass, Captain, and find what you seek." "They know me," Jak breathed. "Not just my name. They know about the Black Compass. They've been watching me specifically." Which means the attack on the Curious Fortune might not have been random. Theodora arrived, her last pistol drawn, taking in the scene. "Captain, if they targeted that ship knowing you'd investigate, then I've been playing someone else's game since the moment we found the reliquary." Jak stood, his mind racing. The box was left behind deliberately. Covenant wasn't chasing them. They were herding us toward her, getting me recruited by the Inquisition, getting me access to shrine worlds and holy sites. Fingers arrived last, his augmetic hands sparking sporadically from the electromagnetic pulse that had knocked out half the cathedral's systems. "Captain, I pulled what I could from the servo-skull network before it crashed. You need to see this." The tech specialist projected a grainy, hololithic image from his palm, security footage from 3 days prior. It showed 2 figures in ecclesiarchy robes entering the vault during maintenance hours. Their faces were obscured, but their movements were wrong, too fluid, too precise. They walked like predators, pretending to be prey. "Watch what happens next," Fingers said grimly. In the recording, one figure approached the chalice, but instead of stealing it, they simply touched it. The moment their fingers made contact, the holy relic began to corrode, not physically, but spiritually. The prayer wards surrounding it flickered and died. The blessed light it emitted faded to nothing. Within seconds, the chalice was empty of divine presence, a mundane cup drained of holiness. Then the figure produced a new chalice, identical in every physical detail, and placed it on the altar. This one glowed with false light, prayer wards appearing around it as if painted by invisible hands. "They didn't steal it," Brother Cantor said slowly. "They corrupted it and replaced it with a forgery that would fool even the most devoted inspection. The real chalice is still there, but empty of the Emperor's grace. And now it radiates something else entirely," Jak finished. "They're not collecting relics, they're hollowing them out, turning instruments of faith into vessels for whatever unholy power they serve." A scream echoed from deeper in the cathedral, high, piercing, and abruptly cut short. Then another, and another. "Security's found something," Theodora said, already moving toward the sounds. "Or something's found them." They emerged into the main nave to find absolute carnage. The Adepta Sororitas had formed a defensive line, their bolters roaring as they fired into the shadows near the eastern transept. But their targets weren't fleeing. They were advancing through the gunfire as if blessed bolts were mere inconvenience. Jak caught a glimpse of one attacker in the muzzle flashes, a figure in corrupted ecclesiarchy robes, their flesh marked with symbols that hurt to perceive. But worse were their eyes, completely black, reflecting nothing, absorbing light like miniature void spaces carved into their skulls. "Chaos cultists," Brother Cantor snarled, his bolt pistol adding its voice to the sisters' barrage. "But wrong, these aren't possessed, they're something else, something older." One of the battle sisters' bolts finally found its mark, catching a cultist in the chest. The explosive round detonated, and instead of gore, the body simply unraveled, like a tapestry being pulled apart by invisible hands. The flesh and bone separated into component threads that dissipated into smoke. "They're not real," Fingers gasped, his augmetic eyes analyzing the phenomenon. "Or they're not entirely in our reality. They're projections, warp entities given temporary physical form through corrupted holy objects," Jak interrupted, understanding flooding through him. "The faith imprinted in relics, millennia of prayers, devotion, miracles. It's powerful, it anchors reality. But if you could corrupt that anchor, invert it, you'd create doorways," Brother Cantor finished grimly. "Holes in reality held open by perverted faith. Emperor's blood. They're turning the Imperium's holiest objects into demonic gates." The Sister Superior was shouting orders, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Fall back to the sanctum. Seal the nave. We need psychers. These things won't die permanently without warp-sanctioned weapons." But even as the sisters retreated in good order, more figures were emerging from the shadows, dozens of them, pouring through impossible angles in the cathedral's geometry. Each one wore the face of faith corrupted. Ecclesiarchy robes marked with blasphemous modifications, prayer beads strung with finger bones, Aquila symbols inverted and twisted. "The compass," Jak said suddenly. "They left it for me because they want me to follow it. They need me for something." "Then we destroy it," Theodora said firmly. "Whatever game they're playing ends the moment we refuse to play," Jak agreed. "Except we need to know what they're planning. How many relics have they corrupted? How many other worlds are about to have reality torn open in their holiest sites?" Brother Cantor grabbed Jak's shoulder, his armored gauntlet nearly crushing bone. "Captain, I have stood against the enemies of the Imperium for 3 centuries. I have faced orcs, tyrannids, and the heretic traitors themselves. And I am telling you now, whatever these things are planning, it's worse than anything we've seen. We need to contact Covenant immediately." "Agreed." Jak keyed his vox to the emergency inquisitorial frequency Covenant had provided. "This is Captain Jak to Eternal Vigilance. Cathedral under attack by unknown hostiles. Relics compromised. Request immediate extraction and orbital support." Static answered him. Then, filtering through the interference, came a voice that made his blood freeze. "The Inquisitor is otherwise occupied, Captain. Her ship encountered difficulties in the outer system. So unfortunate. But don't worry, we'll take excellent care of her." The vox went dead. In the vault beneath them, the compass pulsed once, bright and urgent. The needle spun, locked on direction, and Jak felt it in his bones. A pull, a compulsion, a path laid out before him by powers he didn't understand toward a destination he couldn't imagine. "They've got Covenant," he said quietly, "and they're using me to complete whatever ritual they've started." "Then we run," Theodora said. "Get off-world, warn the Imperium, and leave how many corrupted relics active, how many worlds about to have their faith turned against them." Jak looked at the compass, then at his crew. They're playing a game, yes, but maybe, just maybe, they don't expect me to cheat. The black compass broke orbit with half of Benediction's defense platforms screaming warnings, and the other half trying to target their engines with lancefire. Jak pushed the ship past safety tolerances, the aged plasma drives howling protest as they clawed toward the system's edge. where the Mandeville point would allow warp translation. "Captain, we've got 3 system patrol ships on intercept courses," Theodora reported, her hands dancing across the tactical display. "They're broadcasting accusations of heresy, theft of holy relics, and complicity in the cathedral attack. We're officially enemies of the Imperium." "Wonderful. Add it to my ledger." Jak didn't look up from the navigation console, where the brass compass sat like a malignant tumor. It still glowed with that sickly luminescence, its needle unwavering despite the ship's violent maneuvering. "How long until we can jump?" 18 minutes if we maintain this acceleration. 12 if you want to risk a hot translation that might drop us in the wrong sector. Or inside a star. I'll take my chances with the star over what's behind us. Jak grabbed the compass, feeling its warmth through his gloves. The moment his fingers touched it, he felt something. A whisper at the edge of perception, words in languages he'd never learned but somehow understood. "Brother Cantor, you're the closest thing we have to a psyker. What am I holding?" The former space marine had been standing silent vigil since they'd fled the cathedral, his armor scarred by bolt rounds from the battle sisters who'd assumed they were accomplices to the attack. Now he approached the compass with evident reluctance. "It's a lure," he said after a moment. "Warp-crafted, designed to pull you toward something, or someone. The entity that created this has invested significant power into ensuring you follow its path." His helmet turned toward Jak. "The question is why? What makes you valuable to whatever orchestrated this?" "Maybe they just appreciate my roguish charm," Jak muttered, but his hands were shaking slightly as he set the compass down. "Or maybe it's something more specific. Fingers, cross-reference my known associates, business partners, and past voyages against any other relic thefts or mysterious disappearances in the past 5 years. The tech specialist's augmetic fingers twitched as he accessed the ship's databanks. "Captain, that's going to take hours of Holy Throne." That was fast and concerning. "Captain, you've been within a system's distance of 17 separate incidents involving missing or corrupted relics." Finger's voice carried genuine fear. "The bleeding icon of Morwen, the martyr's chains of St. Jophiel, the skull of Sebastian Thor, except that was supposed to be destroyed during the Vandire heresy, but there were rumors it survived. All of them vanished from worlds or ships you visited within weeks of your departure." The bridge fell silent except for the plasma drive's whine and the proximity alarms warning of pursuing vessels. "They've been using me," Jak said slowly. "I'm not a recruit, I'm a bloodhound. They've been following me because I have a knack for finding valuable things others can't. My entire career, every lucky find, every mysterious cargo, every time I stumbled onto something profitable that I couldn't explain, was them pointing you toward relics they wanted to corrupt," Theodora finished. "Emperor's mercy, Captain. How long have they been watching you?" Before Jak could answer, Crix's voice crackled over the internal vox from the medical bay. "Captain, you need to see this. The priest from Benediction, the one who was talking to you before everything went to hell, he's awake, and he's saying things that don't make sense." Jak found the elderly priest strapped to a medical bed, his ruined augmetic eyes replaced with crude bandages. The man was thrashing against his restraints, muttering in what sounded like High Gothic but structured wrong. Sentences that folded back on themselves, words that implied meanings language wasn't designed to convey. "Father," Jak said carefully, "can you hear me?" The priest's head snapped toward his voice with unnatural precision for someone without functioning eyes. "Captain Jak, Erasmus Jak, Sparrow who flies but never lands. They've been watching you since you were a child, since your father's ship vanished in the halo stars, since you found his logbook in that derelict and learned the first secret." Ice flooded Jak's veins. He'd never told anyone about his father's logbook, the encrypted journal he'd discovered 15 years ago aboard the wreck of the Wandering Star. The journal that had taught him how to read void charts in ways the Navi's nobility claimed were impossible. The journal that had made his fortune and damned his soul in ways he was only now beginning to understand. "What secret?" he demanded, grabbing the priest's robes. "What did my father know?" "The paths between stars aren't fixed, Captain. The warp isn't chaos. It's a pattern. A vast, terrible pattern that only the mad or the damned can perceive." The priest's voice shifted, becoming layered, multiple voices speaking in harmony. "Your father saw it, tried to map it, thought he could navigate the impossible roads and return with treasures beyond imagining. And he did return, Captain. Oh yes, he returned. But he brought something back with him, something that nested in his bloodline, something that lets you find what's lost." Brother Cantor's bolt pistol was suddenly aimed at the priest's head. It's speaking through him. Whatever attacked the cathedral is using this man as a mouthpiece. "Let it speak," Jak said, though his hand had moved to his plasma pistol. "I want to know what I'm dealing with." The priest smiled, and the expression was wrong, too wide, revealing teeth that seemed slightly too sharp. "You're dealing with the collectors, Captain Sparrow. We who gather the fragments of faith that your Imperium has scattered across the galaxy. We who understand that belief is power, and power improperly used is power that can be redirected. Why me? Why use me to find these relics? Because you have the gift, Captain. The curse, the sight that lets you perceive what others cannot. Your father traded for it in the spaces between spaces, where old things sleep and dream of freedom. He thought he controlled the bargain." The layered laughter was painful to hear. "He was wrong. And now you continue his work, whether you wish to or not. Every relic you've led us to, every holy object you've inadvertently marked, they all serve the great unmaking." "Captain, we're at the Mandeville point," Theodora interrupted via Vox. "Patrol ships will be in firing range in 40 seconds. Jak didn't take his eyes off the possessed priest. "What's your end game? Corrupt enough relics, and then what?" "Then the Imperium's faith, built on 10,000 years of belief in the God Emperor, becomes a weapon against itself. Every prayer becomes a curse. Every holy site becomes a gateway. Every faithful soul becomes a doorway." The priest's smile widened impossibly. "We don't need to destroy your empire, Captain. We're teaching it to destroy itself. And you've been helping us accomplish this for 15 years. Brother Cantor pulled the trigger. The bolt round took the priest's head off at the neck, the explosive tip detonating in a shower of gore and blessed shrapnel. But even as the body slumped, Jak heard the laughter continuing, fainter now but still present, echoing from the compass on the bridge. "Translation in 10 seconds, Theodora called. "Where are we going, Captain?" Jak looked at the compass, at the needle pointing inexorably toward some destination in the warp. He thought about his father, about 15 years of lucky finds and inexplicable successes, about the gift, or curse, that let him navigate impossible routes and find lost treasures, about being a weapon he'd never known he was carrying. "Follow the compass," he said quietly. "They want me to follow it. Fine. But we're going to do something they don't expect." "Which is?" Brother Cantor asked. "We're going to find out where all these corrupted relics are being gathered, and then we're going to destroy the whole operation." Jak's grin was sharp and desperate. "After all, I've got a gift for finding valuable things. Let's see how they like it when I find them." The warp swallowed them, and in the swirling madness of unreality, the compass glowed brighter, pulling them toward a destination written in the spaces between stars. Toward the heart of the collector's domain. Toward answers Jak suspected he'd regret learning. The warp was never kind, but this journey felt particularly malicious. The Geller field strained against entities that pressed close, their presence making the ship's hull groan like a living thing in pain. Jak stood on the bridge, watching reality fragment and reform through the oculus. trying not to think about how the compass's needle never wavered despite the madness swirling outside. Day 3 in the Imperium. Theodora logged mechanically, though time had little meaning here. Crew morale deteriorating. 2 ratings claim to hear voices in the ventilation system. Brother Cantor has performed 3 exorcisms. The compass continues to guide us toward Emperor knows what. "How's our guest?" Jak asked, referring to the one piece of good fortune they'd managed. Before fleeing benediction, fingers had grabbed a damaged servo skull from the cathedral's vault, one that had witnessed the collector's ritual firsthand. "Cogitator's still corrupted, but I've isolated the memory core." Fingers hunched over his workstation, surrounded by data cables and blessed oils. His augmetic hands moved with frantic precision. Whatever those things did to hollow out the chalice, it left an imprint, a signature. I think I can trace it back to its source if... The servo skull suddenly activated, its eye lenses flaring red. The voice that emerged was layered, wrong, the same harmony that had spoken through the priest. "Hello again, Captain Sparrow. Still following the path we've laid for you?" "Good. Very good." Jak grabbed his plasma pistol, but Brother Cantor was faster. The former Space Marine's armored fist crushed the servo skull's Vox unit, silencing it mid-word. Sparks fountained from the shattered mechanism. "They're in our systems," Brother Cantor growled. "Captain, every piece of technology we recovered from benediction could be compromised. For all we know, they're watching us right now." "Then let them watch." Jak holstered his weapon, moving to the navigation console where ancient void charts sprawled across multiple displays. Charts his father had made, charts that showed routes through the warp no sane navigator would attempt. "Fingers, can you still extract that signature?" "Maybe. But Captain, if they're monitoring us..." "Can't it be both?" Jak turned slightly, tracking her movement. "But in this case, I'd argue it was phenomenally curious. Someone massacred 8 people to search that ship, but they didn't take the box. Which means either they didn't find it, or they found it and chose not to take it. The first option suggests they were interrupted. The second suggests they were afraid of it. And you weren't." "Terrified," Jak admitted cheerfully, "but also fascinated. Someone went to enormous trouble to sanctify that box. Then they hid it aboard a quiet merchant vessel with a false manifest. Then someone else, someone with military resources, killed everyone rather than let it reach its destination. That's a story, Inquisitor, and I've always been a sucker for a good story." Brother Cantor, standing beside Theodora, spoke for the first time. His Vox-altered voice carried the weight of authority even without his chapter colors. "Inquisitor, if I may, Captain Jak's curiosity, while dangerous, has occasionally proven useful to Imperial interests. He brought the box to your attention immediately, rather than attempting to flee or hide it." Covenant's gaze shifted to the former Space Marine, and Jak saw something flicker in her expression. Recognition, perhaps, or calculation. "Your Brother Cantor, formerly of the Brazen Minotaur's 3rd Company." She tilted her head slightly. "Your service record indicates you left under disputed circumstances. A disagreement with your captain about the interpretation of certain orders. The orders were to cleanse a hab complex of heretical taint," Cantor said carefully. "I disagreed with the captain's interpretation of what constituted cleansing versus genocide. 3,000 civilians died. I believe 700 could have been saved. And yet you serve aboard a smuggler's vessel now." "I serve aboard a vessel whose captain, for all his flaws, has never ordered me to kill innocents." Cantor's tone remained neutral, but Jak caught the undercurrent of steel. "And who, in this case, may have inadvertently intercepted something you've been hunting." Before Covenant could respond, one of the stormtroopers returned, carrying the box with evident caution. Even through their armor, Jak could sense their discomfort. The prayer parchment seemed to glow faintly in the hold's harsh lighting. "Inquisitor," the stormtrooper reported, "the seals are intact, No evidence of tampering. Covenant took the box, her expression unreadable. She studied the prayer parchments for a long moment, her augmetic eyes scanning them with inhuman precision. Then she looked up at Jak. "Do you know what this is?" "Not a clue," Jak admitted, though I noticed some rather interesting coordinates hidden in the cipher on the third seal from the left. Looked like they might point to somewhere in the Gothic sector, but I haven't had time to decode them fully. Covenant's expression shifted, just slightly, but enough for Jak to know he'd said something significant. The Inquisitor set the box down on a nearby cargo container, then turned to face him fully. "The reliquary of St. Celestine's Doubt," she said quietly, "supposedly destroyed during the Macarian heresy, contains a fragment of parchment bearing words the saint spoke in a moment of weakness, a single question that, if read by the faithful, could undermine the foundations of belief across entire systems." "Bloody hell," Jak breathed. "Someone actually kept it?" The ecclesiarchy couldn't bring themselves to destroy words spoken by a living saint, even words of doubt. So they sanctified it, sealed it, and have been quietly moving it between secure locations for 3,000 years. Covenant's voice carried an edge of cold fury. Someone learned its current location and attempted to intercept it. They killed the courier crew, but my agents arrived before they could secure the prize. And in the confusion, it got left behind, Jak finished. Question is, who was trying to steal a saint's doubt? Chaos cultists? We don't know. Covenant's admission seemed to physically pain her. The attackers left no identification, no bodies, nothing but professional execution and military equipment. Someone within the Imperium itself may be orchestrating this. The hold fell silent. Even the stormtroopers seemed to register the gravity of that statement. Internal corruption at a level that could threaten Imperial dogma. Jak saw his opportunity and, against every survival instinct he possessed, took it. "Then it seems you have a problem, Inquisitor," he said carefully. "You're hunting an enemy who knows Imperial protocols, has access to military resources, and is specifically targeting religious artifacts. They've proven willing to kill loyal servants of the Emperor and skilled enough to nearly succeed." He paused. "You need information, intelligence, someone who moves in circles that official inquisitorial agents can't easily penetrate." Covenant's human eye narrowed dangerously. "You're suggesting I recruit you? I'm suggesting that I'm already involved. I've proven I can be trusted not to flee with heretical artifacts, and I have certain connections throughout the sector that might prove useful." Jak gestured to his crew. "Plus, I've got a former space marine, a void-capable ship that doesn't scream Inquisition at every port, and a burning desire not to be executed for crimes I didn't actually commit. You're a smuggler and a liar. Best kind of operative for infiltrating criminal networks, wouldn't you say?" Jak's grin was sharp. "Look, you could execute me and my crew right now, take your box, and continue hunting shadows. Or you could let me help you find whoever's collecting Saint's doubts and asking extremely dangerous questions. I promise I'm much more useful alive than dead." Covenant studied him for what felt like an eternity. Behind her, the stormtroopers remained statue still, awaiting orders. The crew of the Black Compass barely dared breathe. Finally, the Inquisitor spoke. "You will operate under my direct authority. Any deviation from my orders will result in immediate execution. You will report your findings through encrypted astropathic channels using codes I will provide. And if I discover you've lied about anything at all, I will personally ensure your death takes longer than you can imagine." "Crystal clear," Jak said, trying not to show his relief. "Where do we start?" Covenant picked up the box again, cradling it almost reverently. "The coordinates you noticed, they lead to a shrine world called Benediction. According to our intelligence, another artifact is being moved there. The Chalice of Confession, used by Saint Thor himself during the Age of Apostasy." Her gaze hardened. If our enemies strike again, you're going to be there to stop them. The warp journey to Benediction took 3 weeks, and Jak spent most of it trying not to think about the fact that he'd somehow talked his way into working for the Inquisition. The Black Compass traveled in convoy with the Eternal Vigilance, close enough that Covenant's lance batteries could reduce them to atoms at the first sign of treachery, but far enough that Jak could maintain the illusion of independence. "This is insane," Theodora said for perhaps the 100th time, reviewing the encrypted data slate Covenant had provided. "We're hunting potential traitors within the Imperium itself. If we fail, we die. If we succeed, we know too much and probably die anyway. Why did you volunteer us for this?" "Because the alternative was definitely dying," Jak reminded her, studying the shrine world growing larger in the oculus. Benediction was a pearl of a planet, white temples visible even from orbit, massive cathedrals that housed relics from a dozen crusades, and orbital defense platforms that could slag a small fleet. Besides, think of it as an opportunity. How many rogue traders can claim they've worked directly with the Ordo Hereticus? The ones who survive to tell the tale? None, Captain. That's rather the point. Benediction's approach protocols were more complex than most naval installations. 3 different checkpoints, biometric scans, purity seals verified by servo skulls, and a cogitator array that analyzed everything from their ship's machine spirit to the crew's devotional histories. By the time they received clearance to dock at the Pilgrim's orbital station, Jak had been interrogated by 2 priests, 1 tech priest, and what appeared to be a militant nun with anger management issues. "Welcome to Benediction," the station master intoned through the vox, his voice heavy with practiced piety. "May the Emperor's light guide your steps, and his mercy cleanse your souls. Docking fee is 200 thrones, payable in advance." "Even the holy demand their due," Jak muttered, transferring the credits. "Right, landing party, same as before. Brother Cantor, Theodora, Fingers and Cricks. Everyone else stays aboard and tries to look like legitimate pilgrims instead of smugglers." The shrine world's surface was overwhelming in its devotion. Every building bore the Aquila, every street corner had a shrine, and the air itself seemed thick with incense and prayer. Pilgrims from across the sector crowded the processional ways, many having saved for decades to make this journey. Some crawled on their knees, others flagellated themselves, and more than a few looked half-starved from their devotional fasting. "Target is the Cathedral of Confessions," Theodora reported quietly, consulting her data slate. 3 kilometers from our landing site. The chalice is being held in the reliquary vault beneath the main altar, under guard by the Adepta Sororitas. "Battle sisters guarding it," Jak mused, weaving through the crowds with the practiced ease of someone who'd visited 100 worlds. "That's either very good security or a very good target, depending on your perspective. Covenant's intelligence says the transfer happens at nightfall. When the evening devotionals conclude, the chalice will be moved to a secure transport for relocation to the Shrine of St. Thor in the Northern Hemisphere." Theodora paused. "Captain, if someone hits this convoy, it won't be subtle. The sisters don't surrender, and Shrine World Security will lock down the entire planet, which means our mystery enemies are either very confident or very desperate." Jak stopped at a recaf vendor, purchasing cups for the group. The stimulant was weak and tasted like it had been blessed more than brewed, but it was hot. "Brother Cantor, what would you do if you were planning to steal a holy relic from under the sisters' noses?" The former Space Marine considered the question with the seriousness it deserved. "I wouldn't. The sisters are fanatics. They'll die before allowing the chalice to be taken. Any direct assault would be suicide." "Unless," Fingers interjected quietly, his augmetic fingers twitching in a way that meant he was processing multiple scenarios, "you weren't planning to steal it during the transfer. What if the theft already happened?" Jak stopped mid-sip. "Explain." "The reliquary of St. Celestine's Doubt was being moved between secure locations. Someone knew the route, the timing, the protocols. That suggests inside information. Finger's eyes unfocused slightly, his cogitator implants working overtime. What if the chalice was replaced with a forgery days or weeks ago? The transfer is just theater, moving a fake while the real artifact is already gone. Throne, Theodora breathed. If they've already compromised the vault, then we're not stopping a heist, Jak finished. We're catching thieves who've already won, and if Fingers is right, that means someone inside the cathedral's hierarchy is working with them. Still with us in the darkness? Hit that like button if this conspiracy chills your soul. The Emperor protects, but he also appreciates support. The Cathedral of Confessions loomed before them, its spires reaching toward the sky like accusing fingers. Jak studied the building with new eyes, looking for weaknesses, watching the guards' patrol patterns, noting the servo skulls that drifted through the air like mechanical cherubs. We need to verify the chalice is genuine before the transfer, he said quietly, which means getting into that vault without alerting anyone that we're suspicious. Brother Cantor, think your former credentials would get you a private moment of devotion in the reliquary? Possibly. Shrine worlds often grant Space Marines special dispensation for worship. Cantor's armored form drew respectful stares from passing pilgrims. But I'd be under observation. Servo skulls, hidden auspex, probably psychers monitoring for corruption. Then we need a distraction. Jak's mind raced, calculating angles and opportunities. Theodora, what's the biggest draw for pilgrims during evening devotionals? The Miracle of the Weeping Icon, a painting of St. Catherine that supposedly sheds tears during certain prayers. She checked her slate. Happens in the Eastern Chapel at sunset. Draws thousands. Perfect. Crix, think you could engineer a medical emergency during the miracle? Nothing fatal, just dramatic enough to pull security away from the reliquary. The medic grinned, patting his kit. I've got stimulants that'll make someone's heart race like they're having a divine vision or a stroke. Hard to tell the difference without proper scanning. Wonderfully ambiguous. Jak turned to Fingers. You're going to splice into the servo skull network. I need you to create a 3-minute blind spot in the vault's monitoring systems. Make it look like technical failure, not sabotage. During evening devotionals, when the machine spirits are most active, Fingers' multiple mechanical digits flexed nervously. That's actually brilliant. They'll attribute any glitches to spiritual activity. And I, Jak said, adjusting his coat, will be making a very generous donation to the cathedral while asking pointed questions about their security arrangements. Rich pilgrims who throw money around tend to get honest answers from junior clergy who've never learned to hide their tells. Theodora grabbed his arm. This is insane. If we're caught investigating a holy site, then we tell the truth. We're working for an inquisitor who suspects corruption within the shrine. Jak's expression turned serious. But if we don't investigate and the chalice is fake, Covenant will assume we were complicit. Either way, we're gambling with our lives. Might as well bet on the option where we actually learn something useful. As the sun began its descent toward the horizon, painting the cathedral's white stone in shades of gold and blood red, Jak felt that familiar tingle of anticipation mixed with terror. Somewhere in this holy place, traitors walked disguised as faithful servants. Somewhere in these hallowed halls, sacred relics were being systematically stolen, and somehow, impossibly, he and his crew of miscreants and exiles had to stop them without getting executed for heresy in the process. Right then, he said softly, watching the evening crowds begin their pilgrimage toward the cathedral. Let's go rob a church. For the Emperor, naturally. Brother Cantor's armored hand came down on his shoulder, not threatening, but warning. Captain, if this goes wrong, it won't. Jak interrupted with a confidence he absolutely didn't feel. After all, I've got the Emperor's own luck. The Emperor protects the faithful, Captain, not the foolhardy. Good thing I've always been a bit of both. The evening devotionals began with hymns that could shatter glass and faith that could move mountains, or at least move several thousand pilgrims into a cathedral already packed to capacity. Jak slipped through the crowd like water through fingers, his generous donation of 500 thrones having purchased him access to the upper galleries where wealthier pilgrims observed the ceremonies in relative comfort. From his vantage point, he could see the entire operation unfolding. Brother Cantor stood in the warrior's alcove, surrounded by other Space Marines and high-ranking Imperial Guard officers who'd come to pay their respects. Theodora had positioned herself near the Eastern Chapel, waiting for Crix to trigger their distraction, and somewhere in the cathedral's warren of passages, Fingers was worming his way into the servo skull control sanctum with forged credentials and enough blessed oil to make his intrusion look like routine maintenance. Quite the spectacle, isn't it? Jak turned to find a priest beside him, elderly, with augmetic eyes that glowed softly in the candlelight. His robes bore the crimson trim of the ecclesiarchy's inner circle, and his servo skull hovered nearby, recording everything. Magnificent, Jak agreed, not having to feign his awe entirely. The cathedral truly was impressive, millennia of devotion carved into stone and stained glass. I've visited 17 shrine worlds, Father, and benediction remains the most dedicated. Dedicated! The priest smiled slightly. An interesting choice of words. Most pilgrims say holy or blessed. I find dedication more impressive than blessings. The Emperor grants blessings freely. Dedication must be earned. Jak gestured at the crowds below. These people saved for years to make this pilgrimage. They endure hardship, danger, and deprivation to stand in his presence. That's dedication. The priest studied him with those augmetic eyes, and Jak had the distinct impression he was being evaluated for something. You're the rogue trader who made the generous donation. Erasmus Jak, if I recall correctly. Guilty as charged. Jak offered a slight bow. Though I prefer independent merchant to rogue trader. The latter has such criminal connotations. And are you criminal, Captain Jak? Only in jurisdictions with extremely specific interpretations of trade law. Jak's smile was disarming. I'm here seeking the Emperor's blessing for a new venture, perhaps his guidance on which routes might prove most spiritually enriching. The priest's gaze drifted to where Brother Cantor stood. You travel with a former Space Marine, unusual company for a merchant. Brother Cantor provides security and spiritual counsel. There's much darkness between the stars, Father. Having someone who's faced that darkness and survived proves invaluable. Below, the miracle of the weeping icon was beginning. The Eastern Chapel's congregation pressed forward, thousands of eyes fixed on the ancient painting. Jak watched as the first tear appeared on St. Catherine's painted cheek, likely condensation from the humidity of packed bodies, but faith saw it as divine blessing. That's when Crix struck. A woman in the front row suddenly gasped, clutching her chest. Her eyes rolled back, and she collapsed with theatrical precision. The crowd's hymns faltered as more people began shouting for help. Within seconds, the Eastern Chapel was in controlled chaos. Concerned pilgrims, rushing medici servitors, and security forces converging on the scene. How unfortunate, the priest murmured, though Jak caught something in his tone. Curiosity, suspicion. Medical emergency during a miracle, Jak observed. Some might call that blasphemous. Others might see it as a test of faith. And what do you see, Captain? I see an opportunity for the cathedral's medical staff to demonstrate the Emperor's mercy through their healing arts. Jak kept his expression neutral, even as he tracked the security forces abandoning their posts throughout the building. Tell me, Father, with your position in the inner circle, do you ever worry about security? A place this holy must be a target for heretics. The priest's augmetic eyes whirred, focusing on Jak with renewed intensity. Security is quite thorough. The Adepta Sororitas guard our most precious relics, and we have measures that would surprise even the most determined thieves. I'm sure you do. Jak's tone remained casual, but he was watching the priest's tells now. The slight tension in his shoulders, the way his servo skull had adjusted position to better record their conversation. Still, I've heard stories. Relics going missing from even the most secure locations. Makes one wonder if faith alone is sufficient protection. What exactly have you heard, Captain Jak? Before Jak could respond, his vox bead crackled with Brother Cantor's voice. Captain, I'm at the reliquary entrance. The distraction worked. Minimal security presence, but something's wrong. Jak touched his ear, activating the response channel while maintaining his conversation with the priest. Define wrong. The vault door shows signs of recent maintenance, fresh blessed oils, new prayer seals, but the work is shoddy, incorrect verses, seals placed in non-standard configurations. Someone wanted to make it look like official maintenance, but whoever did it wasn't actually trained by the Mechanicus. The priest was still watching Jak, his expression unreadable. Below, Crix's victim was being carried out by Medici staff, still performing her dramatic symptoms with admirable commitment. Father, Jak said carefully, I think we need to have a more private conversation, one that doesn't involve servo skulls or recording devices. I have no idea what Your servo skull has been recording our conversation with particular focus on my reactions to questions about security and missing relics. That suggests either you suspect me of criminal intent or you're searching for someone who might help with a problem you can't officially acknowledge. Jak met the priest's augmetic gaze directly. Given that I've made no hostile moves and have been nothing but generous, I'm betting on the latter. The priest was silent for a long moment. Then, with a subtle gesture, his servo skull deactivated its recording equipment. What do you know about the reliquary of St. Celestine's Doubt? He asked quietly. That it was supposed to arrive here 3 weeks ago for temporary storage before being moved to the Shrine of Eternal Devotion on Ophelia 7th. Jak kept his voice low. That the courier vessel was attacked and 8 people died, and that an inquisitor of the Ordo Hereticus is very interested in who's been stealing saints' relics. The priest's face went pale. The Inquisition knows about the theft. Yes, about potential corruption within Shrine World hierarchies. They're investigating. I'm sorry I never got to meet you properly, Jak said quietly, thinking of the father he'd barely known. But I understand now. You saved the Imperium once. Let me finish the job. The compass flared white hot, and the faith web activated. Every corrupted relic discharged simultaneously, thousands of years of inverted belief flowing backward through the network. The structure screamed, not metaphorically, but literally, its walls shrieking as reality reasserted itself against the warp's influence. The collectors ignited like candles, their forms unable to withstand faith directed inward rather than outward. Brother Cantor grabbed Jak's arm. Captain, the shuttle is gone by now, as it should be. Jak felt the compass fusing with his palm, felt the energy flowing through him like electricity through wire. It burned, but it also felt right, purposeful. You should leave too, brother. You've got more to live for than I do. I told you, a space marine doesn't abandon his battle brothers. Cantor's grip tightened. If we die here, we die witnessing something the Imperium will never know about. Seems appropriate for an exiled chapter member and a rogue trader with delusions of adequacy. Jak laughed despite everything. Adequacy? I'm deeply offended. I've always aspired to mediocrity. The energy built to critical mass. Through the chamber's oculus, Jak could see the orbiting ships beginning to drift away, freed from whatever had trapped them, drawn by the discharge like moths to flame. Some would escape, some wouldn't. But at least they'd have a chance. Covenant's suspended form convulsed once, then went still. In her final moment, her eyes cleared, just for a second, just long enough for her to see Jak and mouth 2 words. "Thank you." Then the cascade reached its peak. "Brother Cantor," Jak said, feeling the structure begin to tear itself apart around them. "If by some miracle we survive this, remind me never to play hero again." "Noted, Captain. Though I should mention, miracles do happen, occasionally." The confluence exploded, not with fire or force, but with light, pure, crystalline light that was faith stripped of corruption. Belief returned to its fundamental form. It burned away the warp's influence, cauterized the wounds in reality, and for one brief, eternal moment, Jak felt what the collectors had tried to pervert: genuine, divine presence. The Emperor's light, not as interpreted by priests or filtered through dogma, but as it truly was: vast, incomprehensible, and utterly indifferent to individual suffering, yet somehow caring about collective survival. It was beautiful and terrible, and absolutely not worth dying for, except it absolutely was. The last thing Jak heard before consciousness fled was Brother Cantor's vox-distorted voice. "The Emperor protects, Captain, even scoundrels like you." Then, nothing. Waking up shouldn't have been possible, which made the experience deeply suspicious. Jak's first conscious thought was that death was surprisingly uncomfortable. His entire body ached like he'd been beaten by enthusiastic orcs with a grudge. His second thought was that the afterlife smelled distinctly like recycled air and medical disinfectant. "Captain's awake." Theodora's voice cut through the fog. "Someone fetch Crix, and tell Brother Cantor his miracle theory was accurate." Jak forced his eyes open to find himself in the Black Compass's medical bay, wrapped in enough bandages to mummify a small child. Theodora stood over him, her expression somewhere between relief and fury, a combination he'd seen often enough to recognize as her, "You scared me half to death and I'm going to kill you for it, look." "How?" he croaked, his throat raw. "The confluence's destruction created a massive warp shock, blew you and Brother Cantor clear of the structure just before it collapsed entirely. You were both floating in your combat suits unconscious when we found you 3 hours later." Theodora's jaw tightened. 3 hours, Captain. We thought you were dead." Disappointed. Jak tried to sit up, failed, and settled for turning his head. Brother Cantor occupied the next bed, his armor stripped away, revealing the scared flesh beneath. The Space Marine was unconscious, but breathing steadily. "He all right?" "Alive, which is more than either of you deserve." The structure's destruction generated a feedback pulse that should have vaporized anything within 100 kilometers. But somehow, and Crix has theories involving the Emperor's direct intervention, you both survived with nothing worse than severe burns and radiation poisoning. "The compass fused to your palm. We had to surgically remove it. Fingers is analyzing what's left, but most of it melted during the discharge." Theodora pulled up a chair. "Captain, we need to talk about what happened in there. You were muttering things while unconscious. Things about your father, about bargains, about being designed as a living key." Later, Jak's voice was firm despite his weakness. "First, tell me, did the corrupted relics get destroyed? The collection?" "The entire structure collapsed into the warp. Whatever the collectors were building, it's gone. We've detected no residual corruption signatures, no warp anomalies beyond baseline." She paused. "But Captain, there were thousands of ships orbiting that place. When it exploded, most of them were caught in the discharge. We're reading wreckage across a massive debris field. But some escaped. Some. Maybe a dozen. They scattered into the warp before we could track them." Theodora's expression darkened. "If any of those ships carried collectors, if any of their corrupted relics survived, then we didn't end this. We just delayed it." Jak closed his eyes, exhaustion pulling at him. But at least we bought time, stopped their coordinated attack. That's something. Crix arrived with medical equipment and a data slate full of scan results. Captain, you need rest. Your body sustained damage on a cellular level. Whatever energy you conducted through yourself during that discharge, it rewrote parts of your biology. I'm seeing changes I don't understand. Modifications that might be the compass's influence, or might be something else. Something else like what? Like whatever your father carried in his bloodline is now fully active in yours. Captain, I'm detecting low-level psychic potential. Nothing overt, but enough that you should register with the black ships if they ever scan you properly. Crix set down his equipment. You're not quite baseline human anymore. Haven't been for a while, I suspect. But the compass's destruction accelerated whatever transformation was already occurring. Jak processed that information with surprising calm. Perhaps he'd known on some level that his gift for finding lost things wasn't entirely natural. Perhaps the collector's revelations about his father's bargain had prepared him for this. How long until I can walk? Days, maybe weeks. You need... How long until I can stand? Jak interrupted. We need to get this information to Imperial authorities. Need to warn them about the collectors, about weaponized faith, about whatever else those things might have planned. You're in no condition to... Captain, Finger's voice crackled over the intercom. You need to see this. We've got an incoming vessel. Imperial identification codes. It's an inquisitorial transport. The bridge was chaos when Jak finally limped there, supported by Theodora and moving like a man 3 times his age. Through the oculus, he could see the approaching ship, smaller than the Eternal Vigilance, but bearing the unmistakable marks of the Inquisition. They're hailing us, the helmsman reported. Audio only. They're requesting Captain Jak specifically. Put them through. Jak steadied himself against the command throne, trying to look less like a corpse recently awakened. The voice that emerged from the Vox was female, cultured, and carrying bone-deep exhaustion. Captain Jak, this is Inquisitor Covenant. I'm told I have you to thank for my rescue. Jak's heart lurched. Inquisitor? But you were... We thought that I'd been broken by whatever the collectors showed me. I was. Completely. My faith shattered, my certainty destroyed, my understanding of the Emperor's divinity fundamentally altered. A pause, heavy with meaning. And then something remarkable happened. When their structure exploded, when you reversed the faith web and channeled all that corrupted belief inward, it created a pulse, a cleansing. Whatever they'd done to my mind, it burned away. You survived the discharge? Barely. My retinue found me floating in an escape pod 2 days ago. I've spent the past 48 hours compiling reports, coordinating with other Inquisitors, and trying to comprehend what you prevented. Her voice hardened slightly. Captain, what the collectors were building, the coordinated faith weapon they planned to unleash, it would have devastated the Imperium. Billions would have died. Trillions more would have lost their faith. You stopped a catastrophe of unprecedented scale. We stopped it, Jak corrected. My crew, Brother Cantor, even you, everyone played a part. Noted, which is why I'm officially clearing all charges of heresy, theft, and conspiracy against you and your crew. You're also being awarded a legitimate rogue trader charter, one that won't be revoked, forged, or accidentally misplaced by the administratum. Covenant's tone carried something that might have been amusement. Congratulations, Captain. You're now a legitimate servant of the Imperium. Jak laughed despite himself, a sound that turned into a cough halfway through, and here I thought dying would be the most painful part of this adventure. There's more. The Ordo Hereticus has authorized an investigation into corrupted relics across the Imperium. We're mobilizing teams to inspect every major shrine, every holy site, every religious artifact. It's going to take decades, but we're going to find and cleanse every item the collectors touched, and the ones that escaped, the ships that got away. We're hunting them. Every Inquisitor in 3 sectors has been briefed. But Captain, and I want you to understand this clearly, your involvement in this matter is over. You've done enough, more than enough. Return to legitimate trading, live the life your father couldn't. Her voice softened slightly. You've earned peace. Don't throw it away chasing monsters. Theodora was shaking her head emphatically, mouthing the word agree repeatedly. Crix was nodding. Even Fingers looked hopeful that their captain might, for once, make a sensible decision. Jak looked at his crew, thought about what they'd survived, what they'd sacrificed, the knowledge they now carried about the Imperium's vulnerabilities and the monsters lurking in Faith's shadow. Inquisitor, he said carefully, I appreciate the offer, I truly do, but I've got a question. Those escaped ships, do you have any way to track them? Any method of finding collectors who've gone to ground in the Imperium? Silence on the other end. Then, no, they've gone dark. Could be anywhere, planning anything. Why? Because I've got a gift for finding lost things, always have. And now that I know what I am, what my father made me, I understand why. Jak straightened, ignoring the pain. Those collectors are lost things, Inquisitor. Hidden things, valuable things that need finding. Captain, you nearly died. And I'll probably nearly die again. But here's the truth. I've been their unwitting tool for 15 years, led them to relics, helped them build their weapon, played exactly the role they designed me for. I can't take that back. Can't undo the damage. His voice hardened with determination. But I can find them, hunt them, make sure they never build another weapon like the one we destroyed. Covenant was quiet for a long moment. Then, you're volunteering to work for the Inquisition? Permanently? I'm volunteering to do what I do best. Find valuable things in dark places. Whether that's officially for the Inquisition or just occasionally reporting findings to friendly Inquisitors, we can work out the details. Jak glanced at his crew, seeing resignation and pride in equal measure. But either way, I'm not running from this. My father spent 23 years hiding from the collectors. I'm spending however long it takes hunting them down. The Emperor protects the faithful, Captain, not the foolhardy. Good thing I'm both, Jak replied with his old grin. Besides, you said it yourself, I earned peace, but I never said I wanted it. 6 weeks later, the Black Compass docked at Port Magnifica, a massive trading hub in the Calixis sector where information flowed as freely as contraband, and questions about one's past were considered impolite. Jak stood on the bridge, his palm still bandaged where the compass had fused to his flesh, studying the bustling station through the oculus. First legitimate cargo run in my entire career, he mused. Feels wrong. Deeply, profoundly wrong. You're transporting sacred texts to a monastery world, Theodora reminded him, reviewing their manifest. Completely legal, fully authorized, and boring enough that even the most suspicious customs official would fall asleep halfway through inspection, exactly as Covenant suggested. Which is why it feels wrong. I'm a rogue trader now, emphasis on rogue. I should be smuggling something. Jak adjusted his coat, which bore new burns from the confluence that he'd refused to repair. They felt earned somehow, honest. What's the point of legitimacy if I can't occasionally break my own rules? The point, Brother Cantor said from his position near the weapons locker, is that legitimate traders don't get executed for heresy. A novel experience for you, I'm sure. The Space Marine had recovered fully from their ordeal, though he now bore additional scars that he wore with the same grim acceptance as all his others. He'd officially joined the Black Compass's crew as security officer and spiritual advisor, a combination that made certain Imperial officials nervous, but that Covenant had approved with what Jak suspected was malicious amusement. "Captain," Fingers called from his station. "I'm picking up something odd on the commercial data network. There's an auction happening dirt side, estate sale from a deceased collector, and one of the items listed is..." He trailed off, his augmetic fingers twitching nervously. "Is what?" Jak prompted. "The prayer beads of St. Lucia, supposedly destroyed during the Marneus heresy 800 years ago. But according to this auction house, they've been in private hands for centuries." Fingers looked up. "Captain, if those beads are genuine, then the collectors might be interested in them," Jak finished. "Which means we're interested in them. Theodora, cancel our cargo delivery schedule. Tell the monastery we've encountered unexpected complications and will be delayed." "Captain, we can't keep using collector hunting as an excuse to avoid honest work," Theodora protested, though her tone suggested she'd already accepted defeat. "Eventually, Covenant's going to expect us to actually transport legitimate cargo. And we will, right after we verify these prayer beads aren't about to become the next corrupted relic." Jak was already pulling up information about the auction house on his data slate. "Besides, think of it as preventive maintenance. Better we secure potentially dangerous artifacts before they fall into wrong hands." The auction house was exactly the kind of establishment Jak had spent his career avoiding. Legitimate, respectable, and requiring verified credentials just to enter. The fact that he now possessed such credentials felt like a cosmic joke at his expense. "Lot 47, the auctioneer announced, a thin man whose augmetic eyes suggested extensive black market modifications. "The prayer beads of St. Lucia, authenticated by the ecclesiarchy's own experts in 847.M41, opening bid 50,000 thrones." Jak studied the beads through his monocular scope. They looked genuine, ancient bone, worn smooth by centuries of faithful hands, still carrying faint traces of sanctification. But something felt wrong, a sensation in his gut that his gift, curse, whatever it was called now, recognized as danger. 100,000, a voice called from across the auction floor. Jak turned to identify the bidder and felt ice flood his veins. The figure wore standard merchant's robes, their face unremarkable, their posture suggesting bored wealth. But their eyes, just for a moment, when the light hit them wrong, were completely black, void spaces carved into human skulls. A collector, here, in the open, bidding on relics as if they were just another wealthy eccentric. "Brother Cantor," Jak said quietly into his vox bead. "We've got company, black eyes, 3 rows back from the stage. Don't engage yet, I want to see where this leads." "Acknowledged. Cricks and Fingers are positioned at the exits. If it runs, we'll track it." The bidding continued, climbing rapidly. Jak let it go. He wasn't here to purchase the beads, after all. He was here to follow whoever did purchase them. The collector kept bidding mechanically, outbidding every competitor with the patience of something that had waited centuries and could wait centuries more. "Sold," the auctioneer finally declared. "Lot 47 to our esteemed guest for 470,000 thrones. Please proceed to the collection desk for processing." The collector rose smoothly, moving toward the back of the auction house. Jak followed at a distance, his hand resting casually on his plasma pistol beneath his coat. He watched as the creature completed the transaction, producing authentic Imperial credits, signing documents with a forgery so perfect even the auction house's verification servitors accepted them. Then it left, carrying a simple case containing the prayer beads. "It's moving toward the lower docks," Fingers reported over the Vox. "Public transport trying to blend in. Should we intercept?" "Not yet. I want to see where it's going, who it's meeting with." Jak shadowed the collector through Port Magnifica's crowded corridors, grateful for the legitimacy that let him move openly without attracting suspicion. These things don't work alone. If there's one here, there are others. The collector led them to a warehouse district, the kind of place where shipments arrived and departed without excessive documentation or inconvenient questions. It entered a nondescript building whose security systems were far too sophisticated for its rundown appearance. "That's a fortress disguised as a warehouse," Brother Cantor observed from his position on an adjacent roof. Military-grade Auspex jammers, auto turrets hidden in the ventilation shafts, and what appears to be a blessed ward against psychic detection. "Captain, we've found a collector safe house." Jak felt his pulse quicken. Not fear exactly, but anticipation. This was what they'd been hunting for. Evidence that the collectors had survived their structure's destruction and were rebuilding. Proof that the threat wasn't ended, just scattered. "Theodora, contact Covenant. Tell her we've found something and need inquisitorial backup. Include our location and..." The warehouse exploded. Not outward, but inward. An implosion that collapsed the entire structure into itself within seconds. One moment it stood, the next it was rubble. And rising from the rubble, burning with that familiar, sickly green light, were figures, dozens of them, collectors emerging from hiding like insects from a disturbed nest. "Emperor's blood," Brother Cantor breathed. They knew we were following them. This was a trap. Or a message, Jak corrected, watching as the collectors arranged themselves in formation. "They're not attacking. They're displaying." One collector stepped forward, taller than the others, wearing robes that seemed woven from prayer parchments in a dozen languages. When it spoke, its voice carried across the entire district, amplified by means Jak couldn't identify. "Captain Sparrow, the key who became the lock, the son who finished his father's work. We acknowledge your victory at the confluence. You destroyed our cathedral, scattered our collection, set back our plans by decades." The creature's head tilted. "But you did not destroy us, cannot destroy us. We are older than your Imperium, more patient than your species, and we will continue our work until humanity learns the truth about its false god." Big words from something that just lost its entire operation, Jak called back, plasma pistol drawn. "If you're so patient, why reveal yourselves now? Because you're hunting us. Because your gift lets you find what we hide. Because you've become a threat that must be addressed." The collector gestured, and the others began to fade, not fleeing, but disappearing into the warp. "So we offer you a choice, Captain. Stop hunting us, abandon your vendetta, and we will leave you and your crew alone. Continue pursuing us, and we will show you what your father saw, what broke him, what made him hide his entire life." "He didn't hide," Jak said firmly. "He prepared me. Made sure that when you finally came back, someone would be ready to stop you." "Did he?" The collector's voice carried amusement. "Or did he create the perfect weapon for us? A seeker who can find anything, blessed with just enough psychic potential to perceive warp truths, driven by guilt and vengeance to pursue us across the galaxy. Captain, you think you're hunting us, but perhaps we're cultivating you, shaping you into something more useful than a simple key." The implications of that hit Jak like a physical blow. His entire crusade against the collectors, was it really his choice? Or was he still dancing to their tune, just as he had for 15 years? "Doesn't matter," he said aloud, as much to himself as to the collector. "Whatever your plans, whatever you think I am, I'm still going to find you, still going to stop you. Whether I'm playing your game or mine, the result's the same. You lose. We shall see." The lead collector began to fade. "The prayer beads were a gift, Captain, a genuine holy relic, untouched by corruption, proof that we can be generous to those who serve us. Consider what we could offer if you joined us willingly, rather than continuing this futile resistance." "I've got a better offer," Jak replied. "How about you tell me where your next safe house is, and I promise to destroy it quickly instead of slowly." The collector's laughter echoed even as it vanished. Such spirit, such delicious futility. We look forward to breaking it, or shaping it, or discovering which serves our purposes better. Then they were gone, leaving only rubble and the faint scent of corrupted faith. Brother Cantor descended from his position, bolt pistol still drawn. "Captain, if what it said is true, if you're still serving their purposes by hunting them, then I'll find a way to serve those purposes badly," Jak interrupted. "Look, I don't know if I'm dancing to their tune or writing my own song, but I know this. Every collector I find, every safe house I destroy, every corrupted relic I prevent them from claiming, that's one less weapon they can use against the Imperium. Whether they planned for me to do this or not, it still needs doing." "Agreed," Theodora said, arriving with fingers and cricks. "Besides, if we stop now, they win. If we continue, we at least make them work for whatever they're planning." Jak looked at his crew. His friends, really, though he'd never been good at admitting such things. They'd followed him into hell, literally, and come out the other side, and they were willing to do it again. "Right then," he said, straightening his coat and adjusting his hat. "Let's go collect those prayer beads. If the collectors gave them to us as a gift, I want to know why. And then we're going to use whatever we learn to hunt down the next safe house." "And the one after that," Brother Cantor added. "And the one after that," Jak agreed. "For however long it takes, until every collector is found, every corrupted relic is cleansed, and whatever they're really planning is stopped permanently." He looked up at the stars visible through Port Magnifica's atmospheric dome. Somewhere out there, the collectors were hiding, rebuilding, planning. But Jak had always been good at finding lost things. Time to prove he was even better at finding things that didn't want to be found. The prayer beads sat in the Black Compass's scanning chamber like a loaded weapon, which, given what they'd learned about holy relics, wasn't far from accurate. Jak watched through reinforced glass as fingers and cricks ran every test the ship's limited equipment could manage, looking for signs of corruption, warp taint, or any indication the collectors had lied about the beads being genuine. "Readings are clean," Cricks reported after 3 hours of analysis. "No warp contamination, no inverted prayer wards, no signs of tampering. If anything, these beads are more blessed than they should be, like someone's been maintaining their sanctification for centuries." "Which makes no sense," Fingers added, his augmetic fingers carefully manipulating the beads under magnification. "St. Lucia died fighting heretics during the Marneus heresy. Her beads should have been enshrined in a cathedral somewhere, not floating around private collections. Unless the ecclesiarchy lied about their destruction," Jak finished, "claimed they were lost to hide the fact they'd been stolen, which means someone within the church hierarchy has been concealing relic theft for 800 years. Theodora entered the scanning chamber with a data slate full of research. "I've been digging through historical records, what little survived from that period. St. Lucia was investigating corruption within the ecclesiarchy when she died. Her final reports claimed she'd discovered evidence that certain officials were selling holy relics to private collectors, using the profits to fund their own ambitions. And when she threatened to expose them, they killed her and covered it up by blaming heretics," Brother Cantor said grimly. "The prayer beads weren't destroyed. They were stolen by the very people she'd been investigating." "So the collectors bought them from corrupt priests?" Jak frowned. "But they returned them to us uncorrupted. Why? What's their angle?" "Maybe they're telling the truth," Theodora suggested quietly. "Maybe they wanted to prove they can be reasonable. Show us they're not mindless destroyers. Or maybe they're trying to manipulate us into trusting them," Jak countered. "Give us one genuine article. Make us question whether they're really the enemy. Soften us up for whatever pitch they're planning next." His vox bead crackled with Inquisitor Covenant's voice. "Captain Jak, we've arrived in system, transmitting docking coordinates now. I want a full debrief on your encounter with the collectors, and I want to see these prayer beads personally." 2 hours later, Covenant stood in the Black Compass's conference room, studying the beads with an expression that mixed reverence and suspicion. She'd arrived aboard a small inquisitorial frigate, accompanied by a retinue that included 2 other inquisitors, a squad of stormtroopers, and what appeared to be a genuine member of the Adepta Sororitas. "These are authentic," the sister confirmed after her own examination. "I can feel the Emperor's blessing in them, St. Lucia's faith, preserved across centuries." She looked up at Jak with an expression he couldn't quite read. "The question is, why would the collectors return such a precious artifact?" "Psychological warfare," suggested Inquisitor Vaughn, a scarred veteran who specialized in chaos corruption. "They're trying to make us doubt, question whether they're actually enemies or just misunderstood archaeologists with unconventional methods. Or they're buying goodwill," offered Inquisitor Thessaly, a woman whose augmetic enhancements suggested extensive combat experience. "Give us something valuable, establish themselves as potential allies, then approach us with some bargain or proposal." Covenant set the beads down carefully. "Captain Jak, what did the collector say to you? Exact words, if you can remember." Jak recounted the conversation, watching Covenant's expression darken with each detail. When he finished, she was silent for a long moment. "They're recruiting you," she said finally. "Everything they've done, revealing themselves, destroying their safe house to prove they're watching, giving you these beads, it's all designed to make you question your assumptions, make you wonder if perhaps they're not the monsters you thought, if perhaps there's some truth to their claims about the Emperor's divinity." "Is there?" Jak asked quietly. The room went deadly silent. Brother Cantor's hand moved toward his bolt pistol. The sister's face hardened with righteous fury. Even Theodora looked shocked that he'd voiced the question aloud, but Covenant just sighed, looking suddenly exhausted. "The truth, Captain, is complicated. The Emperor is divine. Of that, I have no doubt. I've witnessed too many miracles, too many answered prayers, too much genuine faith manifest as power. But is he divine in the way the ecclesiarchy teaches? Is he an all-powerful God who created humanity, or is he a man who became divine through 10,000 years of worship?" She met Jak's eyes. "Those are dangerous questions. Questions that the collectors want us to ask because they know the answers would shake the Imperium's foundations." "But you saw what they showed you," Jak pressed. "In the confluence, before we destroyed it. They said they showed you the truth about the Emperor. What did you see?" Covenant was quiet for so long that Jak thought she wouldn't answer. Then, "I saw the Golden Throne, the 10,000 years of suffering, the constant psychic battle against chaos. I saw the Emperor's consciousness, vast, ancient, barely human anymore, holding reality together through sheer will. And I saw what happens if belief falters, if faith weakens, if humanity stops worshipping." She looked away. "I saw the galaxy drown in the warp within a generation." "So the collectors were telling the truth," Jak said. "The Emperor does need our faith to maintain his power." "Yes, and that's precisely the revelation they want to spread, because knowing it changes everything." Covenant's voice hardened. "A God who requires worship isn't truly omnipotent. A divinity who depends on mortal belief isn't truly transcendent. The collectors want humanity to understand that, to internalize it, to let it corrode their faith from within. And once enough people doubt, once the Emperor's power begins to wane, chaos wins." "So we lie," Vaughn said flatly. "We suppress this information, execute anyone who speaks it, and maintain the ecclesiarchy's narrative regardless of its accuracy. We protect the Imperium," Covenant corrected. "Sometimes protection requires uncomfortable choices. The masses don't need theological precision. They need faith strong enough to sustain the Emperor's light. If that requires maintaining certain simplifications, then so be it." Jak thought about his father, about the bargain that had created him, about 15 years of unwittingly serving the collector's purposes. He thought about the Confluence's destruction and the question that had haunted him since. Had he really chosen to reverse the compass, or had the collectors engineered circumstances where that was his only option? "So what do we do?" he asked. "The collectors are still out there. They've got more safe houses, more corrupted relics, more plans we don't understand. And apparently, they're trying to recruit me to their cause by making me question everything I believe." "You continue hunting them," Covenant said firmly, "but you do it with full knowledge of what you're protecting. Not a perfect truth, Captain, not theological accuracy, but the lie that keeps humanity alive, the faith that holds reality together, the belief that gives the Emperor strength to fight his eternal war." "That's a hell of a thing to ask someone to die for," Jak observed. "Welcome to the Inquisition." Covenant's smile was bitter. "We all die protecting lies we know are necessary. The only question is whether you're willing to do the same." Jak looked at his crew. Theodora, who'd followed him into hell without hesitation. Brother Cantor, who'd abandoned his chapter rather than compromise his morals. Fingers and Cricks, who'd proved their loyalty 100 times over. They were watching him, waiting for his decision. "The collectors said they're older than the Imperium," Jak said slowly, "more patient than humanity, that they'll continue their work until we learn the truth about the Emperor. But here's what they don't understand. Humans are really, really good at believing comfortable lies. We've built our entire civilization on them. 10,000 years of faith in a God who needs us as much as we need him. And you know what? That works. That sustains us. That keeps the darkness at bay." He picked up the prayer beads, feeling their weight, their history, their genuine sanctification. "So yeah, I'll keep hunting them. I'll keep finding their safe houses and destroying their plans. Not because I believe the Ecclesiarchy's version of the Emperor is accurate, but because I believe humanity needs that version to survive. We're not strong enough for the truth. Not yet, maybe not ever." "A pragmatic heresy," Inquisitor Thessaly observed with dark amusement, "serving the faith by acknowledging its falsehood." "The best kind," Jak agreed. "Now, Inquisitor Covenant, these prayer beads are genuine, which means they should be returned to the Ecclesiarchy. But given that the Ecclesiarchy lied about their destruction to cover up corruption, maybe that's not the wisest move." "Agreed. I'll ensure they're placed in a secure reliquary, one with actual integrity." Covenant stood, signaling her retinue. "Captain, you're officially operating under inquisitorial sanction. Find the collectors, destroy their operations, and if they make another recruitment pitch, remember what you're really protecting." "The comfortable lie that keeps us human," Jak finished. "Trust me, Inquisitor. After what I've seen, I'm an expert on believing impossible things before breakfast." After the Inquisitors departed, Jak stood on the bridge, watching their ship disappear into the void. Theodora joined him, 2 cups of recaf in hand. "Still think this crusade is worth it?" she asked quietly. "Probably not, but I'm doing it anyway." Jak accepted the recaf, savoring its terrible taste. "My father spent his life hiding from the truth he'd discovered. I'm spending mine protecting people from learning that truth. Different approaches, same goal, keeping humanity ignorant enough to stay faithful. That's depressingly cynical. That's survival." Jak grinned, though it didn't quite reach his eyes. "Besides, someone needs to hunt these collectors. Might as well be the one person in the galaxy they're specifically trying to recruit. At least I know what their sales pitch sounds like." "And when they make you an offer you can't refuse?" "Then I'll refuse it anyway," Jak promised. "I'm really good at making terrible decisions. Might as well stay consistent." The black compass turned toward the void, toward the next hunt, toward whatever safe house the collectors had hidden in the dark between stars. Behind them, Port Magnifica glittered like a jewel of civilization, sustained by faith, protected by lies, and utterly ignorant of the theological nightmare brewing in the galaxy's shadows. Exactly as it should be. 3 months of hunting had taught Jak several important lessons about fighting an enemy that didn't die conventionally, didn't leave bodies, and apparently existed partially outside reality. The most important lesson: patience was infinitely more valuable than plasma fire, and information was deadlier than any weapon he could carry. The trail had led them to 17 systems, across 4 subsectors, following whispers and rumors and the peculiar sensation in his gut that had become his most reliable tracking tool. They'd found 3 more collector safehouses, all abandoned before arrival, all deliberately left with just enough evidence to keep them following. Each location revealed a piece of a larger pattern that Jak was only beginning to comprehend. "They're not hiding," he realized one night, studying the star charts spread across his quarters. "They're baiting, leading us somewhere specific, building towards something." Brother Cantor had become his unlikely confidant in these late-night strategy sessions, the former Space Marine's centuries of tactical experience proving invaluable. A convergence point. Somewhere they're gathering strength for another major operation. But where? Jak traced a line connecting all 17 systems they'd visited. The pattern wasn't random, it formed a spiral, tightening gradually toward a single sector. The Cyclops Cluster, a region notorious for warp storms and failed Imperial colonization attempts. "There," he said, tapping the center. "Whatever they're building, it's in the Cyclops Cluster, probably using the warp storms as cover, hiding their operation where normal Imperial vessels can't safely navigate." "But we can navigate it," Brother Cantor said quietly, "because your father's charts show routes through warp storms that shouldn't be possible. Because you've got the gift, the curse, that lets you perceive paths others can't. They've been leading us here deliberately." "Of course they have. They want me to find them." Jak leaned back, exhaustion pulling at him. "Question is, why? What do they need me to see that's worth 3 months of cat and mouse?" The answer came 2 weeks later, when they finally penetrated the Cyclops Cluster's warp storms and emerged into a region of space that registered on no Imperial charts. What they found defied immediate comprehension. Ships, thousands of them, not corrupted or twisted like the vessels orbiting the confluence, but pristine. Imperial Navy cruisers, merchant vessels, even what appeared to be ecclesiarchy temple ships, all floating in perfect formation around a structure that made Jak's head hurt to perceive. It looked like the confluence, but different, cleaner, less warp-corrupted and more architectural, as if someone had studied the original structure, understood its flaws, and rebuilt it with precision and purpose. "Emperor's mercy," Theodora breathed. "They didn't just survive the confluence's destruction. They learned from it, improved it." "Captain," Fingers called urgently, "I'm reading energy signatures from those ships. They're not abandoned, they're occupied. Thousands of crew, all alive, all praying." "What?" "I'm picking up Vox transmissions, hymns, liturgical chants. Captain, those aren't corrupted vessels. They're pilgrimage ships, faithful servants of the Imperium who've been led here by the collectors and convinced they've found something holy." Jak felt cold certainty settle in his gut. They're not building a weapon to attack the Imperium. They're building a new faith, a competing religion based on the truth about the Emperor. They're creating an alternative ecclesiarchy. A transmission crackled across all frequencies, and the lead collector's voice, now familiar after months of pursuit, filled the bridge. "Welcome, Captain Sparrow. We've been preparing this revelation for you. Come, see what we're truly building. See what your father couldn't imagine. See the future of humanity's faith." "It's a trap," Theodora said immediately. "Obviously." Jak was already pulling on his coat. "But it's also the culmination of everything we've been chasing. Brother Cantor, you're with me. Theodora, if we're not back in 4 hours, contact Covenant and tell her to bring everything the Inquisition can spare. This isn't a safe house we're raiding. This is their entire operation." The structure's interior was nothing like the confluence's madness. It was organized, purposeful, almost cathedral-like in its design. But instead of corrupted relics, the alcoves held books, thousands upon thousands of texts, theological treatises, historical documents, personal testimonies from individuals who'd witnessed the emperor's true nature. "Welcome to the Library of Uncomfortable Truths," the lead collector said, appearing from a side corridor. This close, Jak could see that its mask wasn't crude patchwork, but carefully constructed from authentic prayer parchments, a mockery of faith or a genuine reverence, depending on perspective. Everything humanity has learned about its God and then desperately tried to forget. We've been gathering these texts for millennia, preserving the knowledge that the Imperium suppresses. "You're building a counter-church," Jak said, "teaching people the Emperor's dependence on worship, trying to undermine faith by making believers question his divinity." "No." The collector's voice carried genuine conviction. "We're teaching people the truth, that the Emperor is divine precisely because of their worship, that every prayer makes him stronger. That belief itself is the miracle. Don't you see, Captain? The ecclesiarchy teaches passive worship, pray and obey. But if people understood they're literally sustaining a God through their faith, that their belief is what holds reality together against chaos, they'd have purpose," Jak finished slowly, understanding flooding through him. "Agency, the knowledge that they're not just servants, but participants in humanity's survival." "Exactly." The collector gestured at the ships floating outside. "These people came seeking faith and found something better, responsibility. They understand now that the Emperor protects, not despite their weakness, but through their strength. That every prayer is a weapon, every act of faith a shield against the warp." "And when the ecclesiarchy learns about this," Brother Cantor demanded, "when the Inquisition discovers you're teaching heretical doctrine disguised as revelation, they'll try to suppress it, as they've suppressed uncomfortable truths for 10,000 years. But Captain," the collector turned to face Jak directly, "you've seen both sides now, the Imperium's comfortable lies and our uncomfortable truths. You know the Emperor needs faith to survive. You know the ecclesiarchy manipulates that faith through ignorance rather than empowerment. Which system actually serves humanity better?" Jak looked at the library, at the thousands of texts representing suppressed knowledge. He thought about the prayer beads, genuine holy relics returned uncorrupted, about the pilgrims orbiting this structure, believing they'd found divine purpose, about his father, who'd discovered this truth and hidden from it rather than knowing what to do with it. "You're asking me to choose," he said quietly, "between the Imperium's lie that keeps people obedient and your truth that makes them powerful. We're asking you to stop fighting us, to recognize that we're not enemies, we're alternatives, a different path to the same goal, keeping humanity alive in a hostile galaxy." The collector's voice softened. "Your father couldn't make this choice. He saw both options and retreated into neutrality, hiding his knowledge in coded journals. But you're stronger than him, Captain. Braver. You've already destroyed one confluence and discovered we simply built another. How many times will you fight before you realize we can't be defeated, only joined?" Brother Cantor's bolt pistol was drawn, aimed at the collector's head. "Captain, whatever you're thinking—" "I'm thinking," Jak interrupted, "that I've spent 3 months chasing you, learning your patterns, understanding your operations, and I've realized something important." He met the collector's gaze steadily. "You're not trying to destroy the Imperium. You're trying to evolve it, change it from within, replace dogmatic ignorance with informed faith." "Yes," the collector sounded almost excited. "You understand, and it won't work," Jak continued, "because humanity isn't ready for uncomfortable truths. We barely manage comfortable lies. You think giving people agency will empower them? It'll terrify them. The knowledge that the Emperor depends on their belief, that if they falter, reality fails, will break more minds than it strengthens. Then we'll teach them slowly. You'll kill them kindly, Jak corrected. Brother Cantor, shoot it. The bolt round detonated the collector's head, but as before, the creature simply reformed. More collectors emerged from the shadows. Dozens of them, hundreds, all wearing those carefully constructed masks of prayer parchments. You reject evolution, they said in unison. Choose comfortable slavery over uncomfortable freedom. Why, Captain? What makes the Imperium's lies worth dying for? Because they work, Jak said simply. For 10,000 years they've worked. Humanity survives, the Emperor fights his war, and chaos doesn't win. Your truth might be more accurate, but accuracy isn't the same as utility. Sometimes, the best answer isn't the right one. It's the one that keeps people alive. He pulled out the detonator he'd been carrying since boarding, a gift from Fingers, built from the corrupted servo skull's remains, designed to emit the same feedback pulse that had destroyed the original confluence. You built this new cathedral thinking we'd be impressed, Jak continued, thinking we'd see your library of uncomfortable truths and recognize you as teachers rather than threats. But you made one critical mistake. You assumed I came here to learn. I came here to destroy. The collectors surged forward, but Brother Cantor was already firing, each blessed bolt round buying seconds. Jak armed the detonator, feeling it warm in his hand, not burning like the compass, but present, ready. You survived one confluence's destruction, he said. Let's see if you survive too. He triggered the detonator. The library exploded, not physically, but spiritually. Every text, every suppressed truth, every uncomfortable revelation about the Emperor's nature, all of it discharged simultaneously, feedback flowing through the structure's warp channels. The collectors screamed in harmony as their carefully constructed alternative faith collapsed inward. Run! Brother Cantor grabbed Jak, armor servos whining as he carried both of them toward their shuttle. Behind them, the structure was tearing itself apart, unable to contain the weight of its own accumulated truth. They made the shuttle with seconds to spare, engines igniting as the structure's final collapse sent shockwaves through local space. The pilgrimage ships, freed from whatever had held them, scattered like frightened birds, their crews confused but alive. Did we kill them? Jak asked, watching the destruction through the oculus. No, Brother Cantor said grimly. You never kill things like that. You just delay them, make them rebuild again. They'll be back in a decade, a century, whenever they've gathered enough strength. Good. Jak straightened his coat, feeling new burns from the detonator. Gives me something to do with my retirement years. Besides, I've gotten pretty good at finding and destroying their operations. Might as well make it a career. The Black Compass met them at the rendezvous point, Theodora already coordinating with inquisitorial forces to secure the scattered pilgrimage ships and ensure the truth they'd witnessed was properly suppressed. Jak stood on the bridge, exhausted, burned, and somehow still alive despite all probability. He thought about his father, about the choice Marcus Jak had made to hide rather than fight, about the gift curse that had been passed down, the ability to find lost things that had become the ability to destroy found things. Captain, Theodora said quietly, Covenant wants to know if we're finally done, if destroying 2 of their structures is enough to call it a victory. Jak thought about the collector's offer, about uncomfortable truths and comfortable lies, about an empire sustained by ignorance and threatened by knowledge. He thought about 10,000 years of faith holding reality together and entities that wanted to teach humanity. It was all built on dependence rather than divinity. Tell the Inquisitor we're just getting started, he said. The collectors will rebuild, they always do. And when they do, I'll find them. Destroy whatever they've built. Keep doing it until either they give up or I die trying. That's going to be your entire life, Brother Cantor observed. An endless chase, no final victory, just temporary delays. Sounds about right for a rogue trader with delusions of adequacy, Jak replied with his old grin. Besides, Someone needs to do it. Someone who understands both sides, who knows the truth but chooses the lie, who can find what's lost and destroy what's found. He looked out at the stars, at the vast darkness between them, where monsters hid and truths waited to be uncovered and suppressed. Somewhere out there, the collectors were already planning their next move, their next revelation, their next attempt to teach humanity uncomfortable truths. And somewhere out there, Captain Erasmus Jak, rogue trader, former smuggler, unwitting weapon, and deliberate hunter, would be waiting to stop them. Not because he believed the Imperium's lies were true, but because he believed they were necessary. And in the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, necessity was the only truth that mattered. In the end, Jak's story became one whispered in the darkest corners of the Inquisition. A cautionary tale about gifts that are really curses, about fathers' bargains paid by sons, and about the peculiar madness of choosing comfortable lies over uncomfortable truths. The Black Compass would hunt for another 17 years, finding and destroying 6 more collector strongholds across 3 sectors. Each time, Jak would feel that pull in his gut, that gift his father had purchased with deals made in the spaces between stars. Each time, he'd follow it to structures built from suppressed knowledge and alternative faiths. And each time, he'd burn them down, preserving humanity's ignorance, one detonation at a time. Brother Cantor remained at his side through it all, the exile and the rogue, the space marine who'd chosen conscience over chapter and the trader who'd chosen lies over truth. They made an unlikely pair, but in the 41st millennium's endless darkness, unlikely was just another word for appropriate. Theodora would eventually take command of her own vessel, a gift from the Inquisition for services rendered. But she'd return regularly, unable to abandon the captain who'd led her into hell and somehow convinced her it was worth the trip. Fingers and Cricks would remain, their loyalty purchased not with coin, but with purpose, the knowledge that they were preventing something worse than any corruption they'd witnessed. As for the collectors, they never stopped. They rebuilt, refined, evolved their approach. Sometimes they appeared as scholars offering forbidden knowledge, sometimes as priests preaching uncomfortable revelations, sometimes simply as questions whispered in the void. What if the Emperor needs you more than you need him? What if faith is a resource, not a submission? What if you're stronger than you've been taught to believe? Dangerous questions, deadly questions, questions that Jak would spend his life ensuring most of humanity never had to answer. Inquisitor Covenant would call him occasionally, usually after another collector cell had been discovered and required someone with particular gifts to locate. They'd developed an understanding. The Inquisitor who'd seen the truth and chosen duty, the trader who'd learned the truth and chosen survival. Neither entirely comfortable with their choices, but both committed to making them. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked once, during a rare meeting on a quiet shrine world far from any collector activity. Choosing to protect lies instead of spreading truth, Jak had considered the question while watching pilgrims pray to a god they didn't fully understand, sustained by faith they couldn't see, contributing to a survival they'd never comprehend. "Every day," he'd admitted, "but I regret the alternative more. These people," he'd gestured at the faithful masses, "they're happy in their ignorance, safe in their certainty. The moment we teach them the Emperor depends on their belief, we make them responsible for his survival. That's not liberation, Inquisitor. That's a burden heavier than any soul should carry. So we carry it for them. Someone has to. Might as well be us. We're already damned anyway." The truth was, Jak had become something neither entirely imperial nor completely free. A weapon pointed at threats the Imperium couldn't acknowledge, fighting a war most citizens didn't know existed. He hunted entities that trafficked in truth, destroyed libraries filled with accurate history, and suppressed revelations that would have enlightened billions. And he did it all in service to a lie he knew was necessary. The emperor protects, the ecclesiarchy taught. And in a way, they were right. The emperor did protect, sustained by 10,000 years of worship, fed by 1,000,000,000,000 faithful prayers, maintained by comfortable ignorance and convenient dogma. Not perfect, not even entirely truthful, but functional, working, keeping humanity alive in a galaxy that wanted them dead. Sometimes Jak would take out his father's journal, the one that had started everything, that had taught him to navigate impossible routes and find lost treasures. He'd read the final entry, written the day before Marcus Jak had died. "To my son, if you're reading this, I'm sorry. Sorry for the bargain I made. Sorry for the gift I cursed you with. Sorry for making you a key in someone else's lock. But mostly, I'm sorry I didn't have the courage to fight them myself, to stand between humanity and uncomfortable truths, to choose the comfortable lie that keeps us human. You'll be stronger than me, braver. You'll face what I couldn't and make the choice I was too frightened to commit to. And when you do, know that I'm proud, even if I'm not there to tell you. The compass is buried with me. Find it when you're ready. Use it when you must. And remember, sometimes the best truth is the one we choose not to tell. Your father, hiding in the dark but hoping you'll stand in the light." Jak had found the compass, as his father had known he would, had become the weapon the collectors thought they were creating, and the hunter they never expected, had spent 15 years unwittingly serving their purposes before spending the rest of his life deliberately thwarting them. In the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, it wasn't much. One man, one ship, one endless hunt against enemies that couldn't truly die. But it was something. A small light in the vast darkness, a voice choosing comfortable lies over uncomfortable truths. The Emperor protects, they said, and Jak would make sure that lie remained functional. Not because it was true, but because humanity needed it to be. In a galaxy of horrors, sometimes the kindest thing you could do was let people keep their ignorance. Sometimes the bravest thing you could do was protect lies worth believing. And sometimes the most heroic thing you could do was hunt truths that should never be found. Captain Erasmus Jak, rogue trader, former smuggler, unwitting weapon and deliberate guardian, understood that better than most, which is why, somewhere in the void between stars, the black compass continued its endless hunt, following gifts that were really curses, finding truths that needed destroying, and protecting humanity's comfortable lies, one uncomfortable truth at a time. Because in the end, faith wasn't about accuracy, it was about survival, and survival was the only truth that mattered. The Emperor protects. More stories await.